Chapter 42. Wang Xufei's face was gloomy as he sat in front of the table. The other peaks were busy, but his broken sword peak was so shabby that there wasn't even a single person who signed up for the competition. Of course, the main reason was that other than Yi Qinghan and Yi Mengxi, there wasn't a third young disciple. Yi Qinghan was currently in seclusion forging a grade 5 combat weapon, so there was only the 5-year-old Yi Mengxi. Was she going to represent the broken sword peak? With Qinghan's personality, I don't think he's interested in competing with these kids. What should I do? Do I really have to rebuild the broken sword peak? Wang Xufei said to himself. This year's elite competition was very important because they had to represent Jiangning County in the Kingdom of Azure Sun and select the most outstanding disciples to study in the Broken Martial Academy. Not only were the rewards generous, once a disciple entered the Broken Martial Academy, the Sky Sword Sect's name would spread throughout the kingdom and they would receive the support of the Kingdom of Azure Sunday. The Sky Sword Sect valued this competition, and so did the other sections. The Sky Sword Sect was only one of the weaker sects in the Kingdom of Azure Sunday. Although they were both grade 2, the difference was huge. "Grandfather, what are you doing?" Yi Mengxi came to the table and asked curiously. "Oh, Mengxi, nothing. I'm just looking to see if anyone is willing to join the Broken Sword Peak and help them participate in the competition." Wang Xufei squeezed out a smile and said gently. "Oh, why don't they join the Broken Sword Peak?" Yi Mengxi was puzzled. Logically speaking, the Broken Sword Peak should have more resources since there were fewer people. Joining the Broken Sword Peak should be more comfortable than joining the other peaks. Wang Xufei bitterly smiled. Who in Jiangning County didn't know that the Broken Sword Peak had a bad relationship with the County King's mansion? Who would dare to join the Broken Sword Peak? "You're still young, you'll understand in the future." Wang Xufei didn't want Yi Mengxi to participate in this matter, so he changed the topic and asked, "Mengxi, what's your cultivation level now?" Grandfather, the cultivation technique brother gave me is so hard to cultivate. I'm only at the 9th level of qi refining, stuck at the blood ignition realm. Yi Mengxi said with a face full of regret. PFFF. Wang Xufei, who had just taken a sip of tea, was shocked by Yi Mengxi. 5 years old. The 9th level of qi refinement, equivalent to a grand martial artist, and the 9th level of body refinement. How could the other disciples endure this? 9th stage of qi refining. Can you defeat that person? Wang Xufei did not believe in Yi Mengxi's battle prowess. He pointed to a disciple at the 5th level of body refinement and asked. "No problem. This kind of rookie can't even beat my family's divine bird. He definitely can't beat me," Yi Mengxi said solemnly. Hey, little master, what are you talking about? What do you mean you can't even beat me? Am I that weak?" The parrot dragged its stout body and trotted over. Then, it asked in a dissatisfied tone. "Shut up. Could it be that you are stronger than me?" Yi Mengxi threatened with her eyes wide open. The parrot shook its head again and again. As the saying goes, riches and honor are corrupted and might must be subdued. Seeing Yi Mengxi ask this question, how could it dare to say that it was stronger than her? "Grandfather, I will represent Broken Sword Peak in the elite competition." After Yi Mengxi dealt with the parrot, she felt that she could solve some problems for her family, so she took the initiative to propose. "No, you're still young. If you get hurt, how am I going to explain it to your mother?" Wang Xufei refused decisively. "Do you think I'm 3 or 4 years old? I'm already 5 years old. I can fight for Broken Sword Peak. My brother told me that strength is obtained through fighting, not through training. I don't care. Grandfather, quickly let me sign up. Otherwise, I'll ask my brother to sign me up." Yi Mengxi acted tough and coquettishly at the same time. She looked like a clown. A 5-year-old kid actually looked down on a 3 or 4-year-old kid. Okay. I'll sign you up. Wang Shufei was helpless. He could only send her away and send someone to inquire about Yi Qinghan's opinion. Half an hour later, Yi Qinghan only sent a sentence that seemed somewhat ruthless. Let go. You know whether you live or die. Wang Shufei obviously didn't think that Yi Qinghan would send out such a cold sentence. Yi Mingxi was only 5 years old. However, he could also see that Yi Qinghan really cared about Yi Mingxi. He felt that since Yi Qinghan was confident in Yi Mingxi's strength, there was no reason for him to worry. Thus, he sent Yi Mingxi's name. When the Heaven Sword sect found out that someone from Broken Sword Peak was participating, they all thought that it would be Yi Qinghan. They didn't expect it to be the 5-year-old Yi Mingxi. Their laughter spread throughout the Heaven Sword sect and reverberated through the valley. Late at night, in the king's mansion, Situ Yunxiao faced a black-clothed man without any emotion. He was like a dead man. If you have something to say, say it. Situ Yunxiao said coldly. There's news from the Sky Sword sect that Yi Qinghan is forging a 4th-grade spirit weapon at the back of the Weapon Sword Peak. His strength is already comparable to the middle or even the peak of the Blood Ignition realm. If he has a 4th-grade spirit weapon, it will be very difficult to deal with him, the black-clothed man said respectfully. Humph, a bastard son wants to make a comeback. Situ Yunxiao stepped out of the king's mansion and his figure quickly disappeared from Jiangning County. In the north of Jiangning County, Gaoyang County was one of the largest counties in the Kingdom of Azure Sunday. It was the pinnacle of 2nd-grade cities and was much larger than Jiangning County. Not only was there the king's mansion in Gaoyang County, but there was also a terrifying organization called Blood Fiends. Even the Kingdom of Azure Sun had to treat them with respect. It was rumored that they had never failed in their mission. However, they seemed to have failed once, and it was at the hands of Yi Qinghan. Gaoyang County, blood overlooking street. The stone slabs were all red, as if they were soaked in blood. It was eerie and terrifying. Usually, not many people would be willing to walk around here. This was the property of Blood Fiends. The area within 1,000 meters was filled with a sinister aura. Large red lanterns hung high in the sky, and the silence made one's hair stand on end. Situ Yunxiao's face was covered with a black veil and his body was tightly wrapped. When he stepped into the Blood Fiend's branch, he felt as if he had entered hell. Target, identity. A hoarse and gloomy voice came from the room, causing one's scalp to go numb. Situ Yunxiao took out a token from his bosom. The word blood was engraved on it, and the number 4 was engraved at the bottom right corner. It was incomparably gloomy and bloody, as if it had been taken out from a pool of blood. So it's VIP number 4. The mission failed last time and neglected the existence of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Moreover, his cultivation is not at the body refinement realm as you said, so you need to add spirit crystals. The voice came from the room again, breaking the silence of the night. His cultivation is at the early stage of the Blood Ignition realm, but his battle prowess is equivalent to the peak of the Blood Ignition realm. He is currently at the back mountain of the Sky Sword Sect's Weapon Sword Peak. I want to see his head within 3 days. You can state the price. Situ Yunxiao's voice was low and hoarse. It was obvious that he was deliberately concealing it. Peak of the Blood Ignition realm? It seems that this old man will have to personally take action. Due to the failure of the mission last time, Blood Fiends will give you a certain amount of compensation. Originally, a genius of this level would require 100 low-grade spirit crystals as a reward. This time, I'll charge you 70. The person in the room still did not reveal himself and remained hidden in the darkness. 70 low-grade spirit crystals. To be able to exchange for Mr. Ma personally taking action, it's worth it. Situ Yunxiao put down 30 low-grade spirit crystals as a deposit and said in a low voice, 3 days later, I'll come to take the head. I hope Mr. Ma will not disappoint me. Humph, this old man has taken action thousands of times in his life and killed countless enemies. Even a great expert who was about to break through to the second star of the bitter sea stage was killed by me. Do I need you to worry about a little kid? The voice in the room was filled with dissatisfaction and arrogance. The corners of Situ Yunxiao's mouth rose slightly. He bowed slightly and cupped his fists. Then I'll wait for the good news. Situ Yunxiao retreated and an old man in black armor walked out of the room. He wore a ghost tooth mask and looked like a demon. With a wave of his hand, he took the spirit crystals and left the blood overlooking street. The next day, the Sky Sword sect gathered at the martial arts practice field. Jian Ao and the other 8 peak masters were present. Nearly half of the disciples had signed up to compete for the 24 elite spots. They would represent the Sky Sword sect in the Qingyang Kingdom competition and strive to enter the Broken Martial Academy. There was only one person from the Broken Sword Peak, and he was only 5 years old. However, after the arrogance of the parrot, he dominated the competition. The first place of this year's elite competition will definitely belong to my little master. If you don't agree, then come fight me. Everyone looked at the fat parrot, wanting to pluck off its feathers and roast it. Some people's gazes made the parrot's scalp numb. However, Yi Qinghan did not care about all this. He wholeheartedly focused on refining. After 2 days and 1 night of hard work, the scarlet flame sand and the purple gold cold iron had finally melted. The golden liquid surged and the temperature rose to over 10,000 degrees. Even experts of the heavenly passage stage could not get close to the refining divine furnace. The level of the refining divine furnace exceeded Yi Qinghan's expectations. It could actually withstand such a high temperature. On the contrary, the temperature in the room was not that terrifying. Phew, it's finally melted. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. The most important step in refining was to melt the materials. There was a very high requirement for one's own true yuan and the refining furnace. The next step was to shape it. According to the shape he wanted, the formation within the heavy berserk blade, and other requirements, every step was extremely important. The scarlet soft gold could increase the flexibility of a 5th-grade combat weapon. It was the most important material for combat weapons of the 5th grade and above. Yi Qinghan put most of the scarlet soft gold into the refining furnace. The scarlet soft gold quickly melted under the high temperature and blended into the molten iron. Goo goo goo, the liquid cold iron was boiling. Several materials were blended together. Yi Qinghan used an ordinary iron trough to create the model of the heavy berserk blade, which was exactly the same as the 7-foot berserk blade. Jian Qinxue, come and help. For the first time, Yi Qinghan took the initiative to call Jian Qinxue, who was in the middle of cultivation. Jian Qinxue looked at the scarlet refining divine furnace and was frightened. Once the refining divine furnace exploded, the boiling liquid inside could kill them instantly. Gotcha, the temperature in the refining divine furnace rose to the peak. The mechanism at the bottom of the refining divine furnace was opened. The liquid quickly flowed into the stone trough of the 7-foot berserk blade. The stone was quickly melted and even started to burn. Pour all of your true essence into my body. Yi Qinghan slapped both of his palms on the stone trough of the 7-foot berserk blade. His true essence poured out and wrapped around the trough, imprisoning the liquefied molten iron. His true essence was ignited by the high temperature and emitted white light. It was extremely terrifying. This was the most energy-consuming true essence. Without true essence as the capital, no matter how good the materials were, it was impossible to refine a high-grade combat weapon. Yi Qinghan felt that his true essence had fallen into a bottomless pit. His spirit qi was sucked dry, his skin was dry, and his qi and blood were burning. Bang! Jian Qinxue did not hesitate. He quickly pressed both of his palms on Yi Qinghan's back. The true essence in his body roared and flowed along Yi Qinghan's meridians into the stone trough. With Jian Qinxue's help, Yi Qinghan took the opportunity to swallow a large amount of blood ignition pills and true elemental pills, forming a circular array. The temperature in the stone trough was high and the molten iron was still boiling. However, the 7-foot berserk blade was finally formed. As long as it cooled down and was sharpened, it would become a real 5th-grade combat weapon. Outside the 9th heaven, the cumulus clouds rolled and thunder rumbled. It seemed to be looking for a combat weapon to cross the tribulation. The pressure enveloped Jiangning County and made it hard for people to breathe. Chapter 43. Outside the 9th heaven, the cumulus clouds were rolling and the thunder was rumbling. It seemed to be looking for a weapon to pass the tribulation. The pressure shrouded Jiangning County, making it hard for people to breathe. Is someone passing the tribulation? Only when someone from the Tao Master Realm to the Tao Master Realm will there be a tribulation. Is there anyone from the Tao Master Realm in Jiangning County? The Great Elder stepped out of the cave residence and looked at the tribulation in horror. The 7 feet heavy frenzied blade was at the bottom of the cliff 200 meters deep. Coupled with the height of the mountain, it was equivalent to 300 meters deep. The thunder tribulation could not locate it quickly and give the 7 feet heavy frenzied blade a chance to form. Yi Qinghan was sweating and bleeding from his 7 orifices. If Jian Qinshue was not supporting him at the back, his life essence might have been sucked away by the 7 feet heavy frenzied blade. Condense! Yi Qinghan shouted and forced out a drop of blood from his fingertip. It rushed into the mother tank and spun quickly. It spread throughout the entire mother tank and the temperature dropped crazily. Puff, Jian Qinshue spat out a mouthful of blood and her divine sense was scattered. Even with a large amount of vital elemental pills, she could not bear the crazy outpouring of vital essence. Let go. I should be able to do it. Yi Qinghan felt Jian Qinshue's vitality was disappearing and shouted in a low voice. No, need. I can. Jian Qinshue was very stubborn. Her legs were almost inserted into the mountain rocks and were twitching. Her devilish face was ferocious and had lost her peerless beauty. Gugugu. Gugugu. Gugugu, the burning molten iron bubbles were getting less and less, which meant that the temperature was dropping rapidly. The dark heavy frenzied blade began to show its ferocity and the consumption of vital essence increased instead of decreasing. Condense. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. He spat out a mouthful of blood into the mother tank. Like a coolant, the 7 feet heavy frenzied blade solidified. Yi Qinghan's vital essence in his sea of qi was sucked dry. He trembled and was about to fall asleep, but he was awakened by Jian Qinshue's last bit of vital essence. The pure vital essence deep in his sea of qi erupted like the eye of the sea, waking him up quickly. Boom boom boom, the vital essence broke through the bottleneck and directly broke through the shackles of the middle stage of the blood-burning realm. The majestic vital essence in his limbs and bones and rushed into Jian Qinshue's body. Finally, the twos faced to recover some color. Huff huff huff, the sound of their heavy breathing intertwined, filling the entire room. The purple light lingered, setting off the inside of the smelting divine furnace room in a beautiful and magnificent way. The pressure of a 5th-grade combat weapon burst out and crushed Jian Qinshu. Without any chance to resist, Jian Qinshu crashed into the stone wall and fainted. Furthermore, it was an unsharpened 5th-grade combat weapon. Once it was sharpened, even Yi Qinghan himself might not be able to control it. The 7-foot heavy berserk saber completely solidified. Yi Qinghan restrained his aura and withdrew his quintessential essence. After rescuing Jian Qinshu, he waited for the heavy berserk saber to completely cool down. With the heavy berserk saber, although he could not use the heavy berserk saber technique for a long period of time, he could use it in an instant to save his life. With the heavy berserk saber, he did not need to worry about Situ Yunxiao. He could even destroy the Duke Manor once and for all. Is it done? Jian Qinshu looked at 7-foot maniac excitedly and nervously as he asked. Soon. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. He was mentally exhausted. Even if he had the soul of a grand martial saint, he could not withstand such a consumption of energy to forge a 5th-grade combat weapon in the blood ignition realm. The 7-foot heavy berserk saber was 7 feet long and weighed 500 kilograms. It gave off a domineering aura that made people revere it. At this moment, even if it was only a half-finished product hidden in the source groove, no one would dare to profane it. Once it was completed, its aura alone would be able to suppress a blood ignition realm expert. Thank you. If it were not for you, the materials would have been wasted and the forging of the heavy berserk saber would have been in vain. Yi Qinghan turned around and looked at Jian Qinxue. There was an additional emotion in his eyes. The simple emotion in his eyes caused Jian Qinshue's heart to be in a mess. Her little heart was beating rapidly, her face was as red as an apple, and her chest was heaving up and down. It's nothing. It's what I should do. Jian Qinxue quickly shook her head. The remaining materials are not enough to forge the 5th-grade Jade Maiden sword. I'll give you a 4th-grade Mother-Son sword. It should be enough for you to use for a while. Yi Qinghan thought for a while and decided to properly nurture Jian Qinxue. She might be able to support the Sky Sword sect and allow him to leave more easily. After all, Yi Mengxi and the Wang family still had to survive here. Thank you. I still have some materials here. Do you need them? Jian Qinxue asked excitedly. What materials? Yi Qinghan looked at Jian Qinxue curiously. It seemed like she also wanted to forge a higher-grade spirit weapon. I don't know. Last year, I found a meteorite in the Blessed Paradise. It weighed about 12 kilograms and was very dense, so I kept it. As Jian Qinxue spoke, she took out a stone the size of a goose egg from her universe ring. It actually weighed more than 12 kilograms. It could be seen that its density was frightening. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He took the initiative to reach out and take the stone. His eyes flickered with a bright light. This stone was intertwined with arrays and contained a terrifying power. Furthermore, he was more familiar with the origin of the meteorite. It was the saber core of the 7 feet heavy berserk saber. The saber core contained the essence of the heavy berserk saber. It had a large-scale spirit-gathering array, an offensive array, and a defensive array. With it, this was the complete 7 feet heavy berserk saber. Yi Qinghan looked at the small hole 10 centimeters above the saber hilt and grinned. Was it heaven's will? This place is at least a few dozen light-years away from Owl War Star. Even if I used the Star Domain Gate, I would need 3 to 5 months to reach here. I didn't expect the saber core of the 7 feet heavy berserk saber to reach here earlier than me. Yi Qinghan was extremely excited. He held the saber core and stared at Jian Qinxue. His burning gaze was extremely deep and could make people sink into it. This was the first time Jian Qinxue saw Yi Qinghan so excited. Her Tao heart that had remained calm for 1,000 years finally moved. She couldn't help but feel a little nervous. What's wrong? Jian Qinxue asked involuntarily. I want this stone. You can ask for anything. As long as it's within my means, I won't frown. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Jian Qinxue didn't expect Yi Qinghan to value this stone so much. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, Senior brother Yi, take it if you need it. Can this stone's value surpass the ethereal flying immortal steps and the 4th-grade Mother-Son sword? In the eyes of others, this stone might be worthless. However, in the hands of an almighty blacksmith, it was absolutely priceless. Its value was comparable to that of a kingdom. In Yi Qinghan's eyes, this saber core couldn't be bought even if the entire kingdom of Qingyang was sold. It's very expensive. It's so expensive that you can't imagine it. I will remember this favor and will definitely not treat you unfairly in the future. Yi Qinghan put away the saber core. He didn't place it in the 7 feet heavy berserk saber because he couldn't control the 7 feet heavy berserk saber at its peak. In the middle of the night, Yi Qinghan placed the master trough into ice water and quickly lowered its temperature. A large amount of water mist filled the entire room. After the temperature was lowered, the master trough shattered, leaving behind the pure 7 feet heavy berserk saber. Yi Qinghan held the saber hilt and released his aura. It was as if he had returned to Owl Warstar. Boom! Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the aura poured out and forcefully pushed Jian Qinshuo 7 to 8 meters away. She fell in the passage and looked at Yi Qinghan in horror. She had never seen such a terrifying aura. It was as if he was a demon god, noble and inviolable. The dense killing intent was incompatible with his cold and arrogant aura. Aloofness, vicissitudes, arrogance, and murderous aura gathered in his body. His eyes were as intimidating as a dragon's eyes. When he glanced at Jian Qinshuo, she felt as if she was in hell. What kind of look is this? Who is he? What did he go through? Jian Qinshuo trembled and completely surrendered to Yi Qinghan's eyes. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and restrained his aura. He lowered his head and looked at the uneven heavy berserk saber. He took out the saber core and kept polishing the saber to a height of his body. The saber core was extremely sharp and indestructible. The protruding metal was constantly being ground away, revealing a cold, soul-stirring gleam. The crisp sound echoed in the back mountain. Jian Qinshuo did not rest for the whole night, nor did she leave. She just stood aside and watched Yi Qinghan's repeated movements. Her heart beat along with his gestures. Because there was no saber core embedded in the heavy berserk saber, it was not a 5th-grade combat weapon. The dark clouds outside the void dispersed and the pressure weakened. Everything returned to normal. The next morning, the 7 feet heavy berserk saber was finally repaired. Only the sharpening process was left. The completed heavy berserk saber was inserted into the smelting divine furnace and heated up again. When it softened slightly, he quickly pulled it out and used the sharpening hammer to crazily smash the blade. His coat was removed, and his bronze skin was covered in sweat. There was not a trace of fat on his body, but each of his muscles could explode with a terrifying power. Boom boom boom, Yi Qinghan waved the hammer to sharpen the blade. Every hammer strike was as heavy as 10,000 pounds, causing Jian Qinshuo to panic. She looked at the man in front of her with infatuation. In the Sky Sword Sect's martial arts practice field, there were 10 arenas that were selecting the strongest of the younger generation. Yimengshi was the only one from the Broken Sword Peak participating, so she had no choice but to fight in the first round. The parrot raised its head and stood on Yimengshi's shoulder with a disdainful expression. It rushed up to the 7th arena, causing everyone to laugh crazily. Even Jian Ao laughed mockingly. Junior brother, Yimengshi is only 5 years old, and she is your granddaughter. Are you willing to send her to her death? As the saying goes, swords have no eyes. I can't guarantee her safety. Jian Ao said coldly. Wang Shufei's face turned red, and the corner of his mouth twitched a few times. He wanted Yimengshi to leave the arena, but Yi Qinghan's words lingered in his ears, lingering for a long time. Let go, and you will know whether you live or die. Strength is gained through fighting, not through training. That's right, no one could survive under the wings of an expert for a lifetime. Yimengshi had to learn to grow up on her own. Wang Shufei was old, and the Wang clan could not cultivate. With Yi Qinghan's talent, it was impossible for him to stay in the Sky Sword sect. Yimengshi had to rely on herself. What are you laughing at? A group of frogs at the bottom of a well. Whoever can withstand 3 moves from me can laugh, or else shut up. Yimengshi's gaze was cold. She stood on the arena and looked down on everyone. She actually erupted with an inviolable might. The corner of Yu Shichue's mouth twitched. She wanted to laugh, but she could not. Back then, she also looked down on Yi Qinghan, but what happened in the end? Who in the same realm in Jiangning County dared to compete with her? If Yi Qinghan was like this, then how weak could his sister be? Battle 5 Trash, the young master is defending the 7th arena. Anyone below the Blood Ignition realm can challenge him. If we can't defeat you in 3 moves, we will admit defeat. The parrot arrogantly said. Chapter 44. On the 7th stage, Yi Mingxi stood alone. For a moment, no one wanted to go on stage. First of all, they didn't know how strong Yi Mingxi was. No one was willing to take the risk. Moreover, Yi Mingxi was so young. If they lost, it wouldn't be a big deal. They would also have a bad reputation of bullying the weak. Except for the 7th arena, all the other arenas will draw lots. Let's begin. Jian Ao glanced around and said in a deep voice. For a moment, except for the 7th arena, the other arenas had already begun to fight. Yi Mingxi's young face looked very innocent. Her big watery eyes scanned the crowd, but no one was willing to go up. She could not help but be speechless. Haha, they are all scared to death. Sure enough, when the master comes out, who can compete? The parrot laughed wildly. Humph. They are looking down on me. Yi Mingxi said angrily. Looking down. This is too funny. A group of trash dares to look down on a genius? The parrot was astonished and asked with disdain. The crowd was angered by the parrot's disdainful gaze. Fuck. Get off the stage or I will roast you. Get off the stage, beast. Everyone clamored. If Yi Mingxi was not still on the stage, they would have started to throw stones. Fuck. You dare to call this divine bird a beast? Little bastards, come up and fight with this divine bird master. If I don't beat you until your parents can't recognize you, this divine bird will commit suicide for an incense stick of time. The parrot was furious. Someone go up and kick it off the stage. Be careful not to hurt Yi Mingxi. Jian Ao impatiently scolded. You want to kick me off the stage? If you have the guts, come up and kick me. I will throw you into the 100,000 mountain range. The parrot was flustered and exasperated. It had never been looked down upon like this. It did not care how strong Jian Ao was and directly declared war. Jian Ao was trembling with anger. This bird was too despicable. Senior brother, you can't attack. This is a battle between the younger generation. The parrot is Mengxi's spirit pet. If you attack, Mengxi's strength will be greatly reduced. Wang Shufei looked at Jian Ao's flustered and exasperated appearance and quickly reminded. Are you all dead? One of you, go up and beat it down. Jian Ao looked at the Sky Sword Peak disciples angrily and said coldly. Sai, sect master, there's no need to lower yourself to the same level as a beast. Any disciple from my weapon Sword Peak is enough. Qi Fantian shook his head and beckoned to a young disciple behind him. Li Dafu, go up and teach this bastard a lesson. All right. Master, don't worry. Lord Sect Leader, don't worry. I'll definitely satisfy you within 3 moves. That Li Dafu was incomparably arrogant, thinking that dealing with the 5-year-old Yi Mingxi would be as easy as crushing an ant. Yi Mingxi saw that there was finally someone on stage, and it was even a rookie at the 6th level of body refinement. She couldn't help grinning. According to the agreed plan, we'll be invincible in the world and show those scumbags the power of our divine harmony duo. The parrot rubbed its palms together and said loudly. Ha ha ha, little girl, I advise you to take the initiative to go down. Otherwise, don't blame my fist. Li Dafu was so arrogant that he waved his fists as soon as he got on the stage. Hua, the parrot's mouth spat out flames. Li Dafu didn't even finish his sentence before he was instantly engulfed in flames. His hair, eyelashes, and eyebrows were all burned away. His face was as black as charcoal and his clothes were also ignited. He couldn't help but roar. Ah ah ah, heaven origin mountain shattering style. Yi Mengshi saw that Li Dafu was going crazy and didn't defend. The misty flying immortal steps made her figure disappear. Her fist hit Li Dafu's chest. True essence roared and pierced through his body, cutting off the connection between Li Dafu's divine sense and Qi Si. Pa pa pa, the parrot clawed and scratched randomly, all of its attacks aimed at Li Dafu's head. It didn't seem strong at all. Of course, the ability to spit fire scared many people. Damn, is this a parrot? How can it spit fire? Many disciples were stunned. Seeing the miserable Li Dafu without any resistance and letting Yi Mengshi and the parrot rain attacks on his body, they couldn't help but feel a chill. I'll beat you to death, you idiot. You dare to look down on this divine bird, I'll let you be cocky. Cocky. Yi Mengshi's fist landed on Li Dafu's eyes. Li Dafu's eyes were swollen beyond recognition. The parrot was even more exaggerated. It directly tore apart his clothes and made him look like a beggar. There were even some places that were burning. I admit defeat. Ah. I beg you, please don't fight. Li Dafu rolled on the stage, holding his head as he begged for mercy. You won't fight if you admit defeat? Hurry up and say you're trash. The parrot's sharp claws pierced into Li Dafu's thighs and tore at them with all its might. Li Dafu was in so much pain that he hovered between life and death. Yi Mengshi wasn't willing to be outdone. Her small fists were filled with sharp true essence as they pierced into Li Dafu's flesh. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. The rules of the Heavenly Sword Sect tournament were that if one side admitted defeat, the other could not attack again. This was clearly against the rules. But, could you talk about the rules with a 5-year-old child and a lowly bird? Stop. Qi Fantian was also enraged. This was a naked humiliation. But the parrot and Yi Mengshi didn't listen to him at all. Their sharp claws left behind shocking scars on Li Dafu's body. I'm trash. I beg you, please don't fight anymore. Li Dafu cried bitterly, not caring about his face as he begged for mercy. All right. If one side admits defeat, the other side can't attack again. Junior brother Wang, did you not tell her the rules? Jian Ao's face was ugly as he asked coldly. Wang Shufei smiled happily and quickly said, I'm sorry, this old man forgot about this. Meng Shi, it's good that you've won. Don't fight anymore. Although he said he was sorry, Wang Shufei's face was filled with pride. He could finally hold his head up high. How could he be embarrassed? Hearing Wang Shufei's shout, Yi Mengshi reluctantly retracted her fist and kicked Li Dafu off the stage. This is so annoying. Can't you send up a useless rookie for me to abuse? The parrot clamored. Everyone from Weapon Sword Peak was enraged. Was this a declaration of war? Was this a fight to the death? Xian Fei, you go. Jian Ao coldly said. Xian Fei's ankle had been broken by Yi Qinghan a few days ago. He had to use a high-quality spirit pill to heal it. Now his cultivation had broken through to the peak of the 8th layer of body refinement. It was very likely that he would enter the top 30 of the Sky Sword sect. Xian Fei looked at Yi Mengshi with a vicious expression. It was as if he was looking at Yi Qinghan. In his heart, he thought, Yi Qinghan, I will return the pain you gave me to your sister. This old man will say it again. If one side admits defeat, the other side can't attack again. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for being ruthless. Jian Ao swept his gaze over the crowd and coldly reprimanded. Jian Ao's words seemed to be directed at everyone, but it was actually a warning to Yi Mengshi because no one dared to break the rules. However, Yi Mengshi curled her lips and didn't take it to heart. Beg for mercy. There are plenty of ways to make you unable to open your mouth. Xian Fei's aura erupted. He fiercely stomped on the ground and jumped 6 to 7 meters into the air. He did a beautiful somersault and landed on the 5-meter-high stage. He was incomparably confident and drew cheers from the crowd. Yi Mengshi and the parrot looked at each other and smiled. This fellow Xian Fei had left a deep impression on them. Can I attack now? Yi Mengshi asked with a smile. Humph. Xian Fei thought back to last time when Yi Qinghan had asked him the same question. His old face couldn't help turning red. He was afraid that Yi Mengshi's speed was also fast. He unsheathed his sword and charged at Yi Mengshi. Sword chi filled the entire stage. Yi Mengshi's clothes fluttered from the sword chi. Seeing Xian Fei's sneak attack, she couldn't help sneering. She twisted her foot and charged from the left. The parrot charged from the right. Xian Fei's speed was fast enough, but he wasn't as fast as Yi Mengshi and the parrot. Xian Fei pounced at empty air. Seeing Yi Mengshi and the parrot disappear, he quickly shot out sword chi in all directions. He was afraid of a sneak attack. Void-shattering form. I'll shoot. One person and one bird were extremely fast. After dodging Xian Fei's sword chi, a sharp true energy sword-like sword slashed towards Xian Fei's throat. Before Xian Fei could react, he saw the parrot's mouth of fire flying towards him. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Ding, Xian Fei didn't train much in the basic sword skills. The sword shadow covered his face and protected his chest, blocking the fire a meter away. With a twist of his body, he dodged Yi Mengshi's attack with difficulty. However, he lost control of his body. Void-shattering form. Yi Mengshi seized the opportunity. From 5 to 6 meters away, she turned her fist into a palm and smashed upwards. Bam! True essence turned into a tender palm and struck Xian Fei's jaw, almost shattering his teeth. Xian Fei's eyes rolled back and he almost fainted. However, his reaction was fast enough. He quickly stabbed his sword towards Yi Mengshi, wanting to defeat her and buy himself some time. Downward form. Yi Mengshi lowered her wrist and used her true energy to smash towards Xian Fei's throat. However, her body retreated a few meters and dodged Xian Fei's attack. Boom! Puff, the true energy palm hit his throat, causing Xian Fei's consciousness to be in a mess. He coughed up blood and retreated. He couldn't even speak. Swish, the ethereal flying steps was as fast as lightning. It turned into a white light and spun around the arena. There were afterimages everywhere. Little Mengshi had completely established her power. She went behind Xian Fei and struck out with Yi Family Fist. She was like a ferocious tiger that was released from its cage. True energy poured out. Bam! The fist hit his back. Xian Fei staggered and lost his balance. However, little Mengshi stepped on his leg and he immediately knelt on the ground. The changes in Yi Mengshi's moves were as smooth as flowing water. It was incomparably natural and unrestrained, causing everyone to be dumbstruck. Ancient tree roots. The punch was as heavy as 1,000 pounds. It was powerful and forceful, forcing Xian Fei to kneel on the ground. Dragon fighting in the wild. Her tender body almost flew into the air. A back kick hit Xian Fei's head and sent him flying a few meters. Before he fell off the arena, she changed her move again. Heaven and earth shattering. Yi Mengshi's body bounced up and fell from the sky. Her small fist almost created sparks. If this punch hit Xian Fei's body, it would be enough to break through his veins. Little master, you can do it. The parrot swayed its fat body in the arena. It looked very funny. However, everyone was too lazy to look at it. They were all stunned by Yi Mengshi's strength. Xian Fei's eyes were blurry. He wanted to speak but his throat was blocked by a stream of qi. He could only shout hoarsely and couldn't say the word surrender. However, Yi Mengshi's fist had already fallen. He could only struggle hard. He raised his arms to protect his face and chest, praying that he could block this punch. Boom! Gotcha! There was a loud sound followed by the crisp sound of broken bones. Xian Fei screamed and curled up. His arms drooped. He was completely crippled by this punch. Chapter 45. The martial arts arena was completely silent. Even the other arenas were quiet. No one dared to break the silence. Jian Ao's body trembled as if the punch had landed on his body. He could not help but think, if Yi Mingxi is like this, can Yi Qinghan really only block 50% of my power? Wang Shufei was extremely excited. He was even more excited than when he broke through to the bitter sea stage. Yu Shiqia looked at Yi Mingxi as if she had found a treasure. Her eyes were filled with thoughts of nurturing her. He didn't admit defeat. Can I continue? Yi Mingxi pointed at the curled-up Xian Fei and asked innocently. Of course. This guy didn't admit defeat. Let's go. The parrot was not afraid of offending people. It rushed up and scratched randomly. Xian Fei's tears flowed but he could not shout. His eyes were almost popping out. Forget it, forget it. Forgive him. Wang Shufei hurriedly stood up and acted like a good person, trying to dissuade him. Xian Fei was after all a member of the Heavenly Sword Peak. How could they humiliate him and offend Jian Ao? Yi Mingxi heard her grandfather's words and quickly grabbed the parrot's wings and retreated to the side. She waited for the third battle as if she did not need to rest. Senior brother Wang, this, that. Can you let Mingxi join the Jade Maiden Peak? She is after all a little girl. I'm afraid you can't train her. Yu Shiqia rubbed her hands and said embarrassedly. Junior sister you are wrong. My broken sword peak only has one disciple. How can I give her to you? Moreover, she is my granddaughter. Wang Shufei said unhappily. Doesn't the broken sword peak still have Yi Qinghan? Do you see that I want to take in Yi Qinghan? Good senior brother, this is the first time junior sister begs you. Just agree. Yu Shiqia pleaded. No. If you can pull Yi Qinghan to the Jade Maiden Peak, I will be very happy. Wang Shufei said without hesitation. You, don't regret it. I will marry Qinxue to him. I don't believe he won't join the Jade Maiden Peak. Yu Shiqia said angrily. Even if you marry him, he won't join Jade Maiden Peak. Don't you think that Jiangning County is too small for him? Wang Shufei said indifferently. Yu Shiqia was flustered and exasperated. Her face was flushed red as she pointed at Wang Shufei. She wanted nothing more than to punch him out of the Sky Sword sect. You disrespectful old bastard. You call me senior brother in vain. Yu Shiqia stomped her foot and turned her head to sit down, unwilling to acknowledge Wang Shufei. Congratulations junior brother Wang for obtaining 2 treasures. Yi Qinghan is invincible among his peers. Yi Mingxi is only 5 years old, yet she defeated Xian Fei in 3 moves. Her potential is fearsome. Everyone cupped their fists and took the initiative to strike up a conversation. If it was in the past, Wang Shufei wouldn't even dare to dream about it. Wang Shufei was so excited that his face turned red. He felt that he had become 10 years younger. The more he looked at Yi Mingxi, the more satisfied he was. The competition continued, and the atmosphere in the martial arts field reached a climax. No one wanted to be defeated by a 5-year-old child. In the afternoon, the competition reached its peak. Yi Mingxi was invincible among those below the blood ignition realm, causing everyone to be shocked. The Sky Sword sect cheered for the first time, because she represented the Sky Sword sect. In the future, the Sky Sword sect would definitely be glorious because of her. Just as everyone's gaze was fixed on the martial arts field, a white figure snuck into the Sky Sword sect along the white snow. It was so silent that even Jian Ao did not discover it. Covered by the Ghost Fong mask, his aura was restrained. He quickly snuck into the back mountain of the Weapon Sword Peak without alerting any of the disciples guarding the mountain. As expected of the Blood Evil Organization's Assassin Hall Master in Gaoyang County. Ma Gui, anyone who saw him would feel as if they had seen a ghost. Seeing a ghost meant death. Seeing Ma Gui also meant death. 3 years ago, he was already an expert at the peak of the blood ignition realm, half a step into the bitter sea realm, and had killed a bitter sea realm existence. 3 years later, no one knew how terrifying he was. A foot-long blood-red dagger appeared in his hand. He quickly approached below, a faint killing intent restrained. He was like a stone without spiritual energy, silent like a ghost. Inside the cave, there were still a few disciples patrolling. They felt a figure flash, and all of them fell into a pool of blood. Their throats were pierced, and they did not make the slightest sound. They were completely dead. Jian Qinxue was still guarding outside the door. She did not discover that the ghost was less than 30 meters away from her. Death had come, and she had 1 foot in hell. In the room, Yi Qinghan had just finished refining the 4th-grade mother-son sword, and was in the midst of closing his eyes to cultivate and recover his vital energy. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, stretched out his hand to grab the hilt of the violent sword that was inserted into the ground, and said hoarsely, "Jian Qinxue, come in." "Oh, is there anything I can help with?" Jian Qinxue hurriedly pushed open the stone door and asked. "No." Yi Qinghan threw the mother-son sword to her, pulled out his sword, and motioned for her to retreat to the corner of the wall. Jian Qinxue grasped the 4th-grade mother-son sword, her expression changing. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was like an attacking azure dragon that wanted to destroy the heavens and earth, she knew that things were not going well. She hurriedly retreated to the opposite side of the refining divine furnace. Yi Qinghan had his back to the door, swallowing a large amount of vital energy pills and blood ignition pills to replenish the consumption of the past few days. His consciousness was closely watching the passage. The horse was like a ghost hanging in the air, constantly approaching the room of the refining divine furnace. Even the bitter sea stage could not fly, she really did not know how he did it. The stone door was half closed, the horse was like a ghost closing in step by step. The dagger was as sinister as blood and bone, but its aura was so restrained that it could not be discovered. Even if it was close at hand, Jian Qinxue, under Yi Qinghan's warning, did not discover his arrival. Yi Qinghan restrained his aura and condensed his vital essence. He secretly inserted the saber core into the pit of the heavy manic saber. Once embedded, the grade 5 heavy manic saber would be powerful enough to destroy mountains and rivers. Xiu Dat the horse was like a ghost, like a sword, piercing towards Yi Qinghan. Killing intent engulfed the surroundings, and the temperature of the underground rapidly dropped, as if hell had descended. When Yi Qinghan inserted the core of the blade into the violent sword, his aura suddenly erupting. With a slash of the blade, the sky sword sect trembled, and the arena of the martial arts field instantly collapsed. Boom boom boom. Cumulus clouds covered the sky, instantly covering the entire small city of Jiangning County. Lightning destroyed everything in its path, constantly striking the back mountain of the weapon sword peak. The cliff was split apart, constantly sinking. Huada with a crisp explosion, a terrifying blade aura rushed out from the weapon sword peak's weapon refining cliff, cutting off the momentum of the 8 desolates, rushing beyond the 9 heavens, directly approaching the cumulus clouds. Ah! A shrill scream resounded through the clouds, breaking the dead silence of the sky sword sect. Then, the back mountain of the weapon sword peak was split apart, and a white figure turned into lightning, leaping into the sky. Extreme Dao killing God style. Die for me. No. The 2 different voices shocked everyone. One was a murderous aura, the other was an aura that could destroy the heavens. At the same time, it rushed into the sky, suppressing the momentum of the heavens. Shuadat using the extreme Dao dragon steps to the limit, he leaped into the sky. Despite being in the blood ignition realm, he actually flew into the sky, rushing into everyone's line of sight. Jian Ao immediately shivered. Slash! Shuadat the sharp blade aura pierced through the air, instantly piercing through Marugi. Ma Rugi's reaction was fast enough. Using all the true yuan in his body, he instantly flew up, dodging Yi Qinghan's fatal attack. However, his legs were not able to dodge, and were pierced through by the violent blade aura. Ma Rugi, however, was oblivious to it. He slammed his palm on the opposite mountain, using the force of the qi to rush into the training ground. He hoped to use the large number of people in the training ground to suppress Yi Qinghan's momentum. Disperse. Disperse quickly. Who is he? Why is he at the back mountain of the weapon sword peak? He has angered Yi Qinghan. Damn, is Yi Qinghan a god? The training ground was in a mess. The Grand Elder came out of the mountain, protecting everyone. He looked at the two people rushing in from the sky with a shocked expression and gasped. Ma Rugi. Branch leader of the Blood Fiends. The Grand Elder's eyes were like torches. He glanced at Ma Rugi and realized that both of his legs had been cut off, but he did not feel anything. He could not help but be frightened. How sharp was the blade in Yi Qinghan's hand? How terrifying was the blade aura? Die! Yi Qinghan directly threw out his violent blade. The blade, at least 5 feet long, pierced through Ma Rugi's body, nailing him to the training ground. Boom! The violent blade penetrated more than 2 meters deep into the training ground. Ma Rugi's body was stuck at the bottom of the crack. His legs were separated from his knees, and he did not even struggle before he died. Hua! Ka. The training ground was split into 2. There were countless small cracks, and it was a shocking sight. Yi Qinghan was in midair. He felt that his true yuan was like a torrential river, and the true yuan in his qi si was instantly exhausted. He was unable to support his body and fell from the sky. While still in midair, Yi Qinghan hurriedly swallowed a large amount of true yuan pills and blood ignition pills. Finally, he was able to stabilize his body and land steadily on the training ground. There was not the slightest sound on the training ground. Everyone's breathing could be heard clearly. No one dared to approach Yi Qinghan. His cold eyes could almost freeze the qi and blood of the blood ignition realm. Even Qi Fantian and other experts who had not broken through to the bitter sea stage felt that they were mortals 10 meters away from Yi Qinghan. Their qi and blood were sealed, and their strength could not be increased. Yi Qinghan swept a glance over the crowd and fixed his gaze on Qi Fantian. Killing intent flashed across his eyes. Qi Fantian felt like he was being stared at by a demon. His back was drenched in cold sweat. Meng Shi, go get a jar of purple light wine. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. His soul was exhausted to the extreme, and he was unable to move. He held the hilt of the violent strike with one hand, stabilizing his body, and put the blade core into his Qianquan ring with the other. The 5th grade aura of the violent strike disappeared, and the cumulus clouds in the sky quickly dispersed. At this moment, only the violent strike could give him a sense of security. Everyone knew that Yi Qinghan did not have any true yuan, so they did not dare to act rashly. Yi Meng Shi used, Misty Flying Immortal, quickly rushed to the broken sword peak, and returned to the training ground with the wine jar. Yi Qinghan half knelt on the ground, allowing Yi Meng Shi to lift the wine jar and pour the purple light wine into his mouth. Majestic spiritual qi ran through his body, turning into true yuan to temper his body. Most of his true yuan gathered in his qi si, quickly recovering his strength. Wang Shufei stood at Yi Qinghan's side, looking at Qi Fantian cautiously. Yi Qinghan's previous glance was too obvious. Yi Qinghan was like a bottomless pit, desperately sucking in the entire jar of wine. His face gradually turned red, and he took the initiative to take the wine jar and pour it into his mouth. At this time, his qi si had been opened to the limit, and true yuan pills were no longer of much use to Yi Qinghan. He had to rely on the purple light wine, and his need for spirit crystals was becoming more and more urgent. Chapter 46. The Knight of the Sky Sword sect had never been so quiet. The people on the martial arts practice field dispersed, leaving only the 8 peak masters and elders. The atmosphere was so oppressive that it was hard to breathe. Yi Qinghan calmly looked at Qi Fantian, and did not accuse him of betraying the Sky Sword sect and himself. Instead, he pulled out the heavy berserk blade and said indifferently, "Qi Fantian, what grade do you think this heavy berserk blade is comparable to?" "4th grade, no, 5th grade." Qi Fantian's face was deathly pale. He was not angry because Yi Qinghan had called him by his name, but was scared witless. "Do you still remember our bet?" Yi Qinghan asked again. "Remember, if you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. I've saved up a lifetime's worth of spirit crystals, a total of 35 pieces. Together with Lien Chen's 150,000 taels of gold, it should be enough. I've offended you in the past 2 days, please forgive me, Sir Yi." Qi Fantian took out all the spirit crystals from his universe ring and respectfully presented them to Yi Qinghan. The spirit crystals were full of spirit qi, and were solid spirit bodies. A palm-sized spirit crystal could instantly restore the battle strength of an expert at the 7th star of the Bitter Sea stage or above, and could also explode an expert at the early stage of the Bitter Sea stage. Yi Qinghan took the spirit crystal and probed it with his divine sense. He found that there were many impurities, and it could only be regarded as the lowest grade of the lowest grade, but it was suitable for his current realm. Qi Fantian's attitude of admitting his guilt was very good, so Yi Qinghan had no excuse to kill him. He also did not want to waste his strength to kill a trash. "I will only give you this one chance. I never find an excuse to kill people, nor do I need evidence. If you make me want to kill you again, you will end up like him. Do you understand?" Yi Qinghan said coldly, pointing at Ma Rugi's body. "Yes. I am ignorant, I will never do it again." Qi Fantian bent his body 90 degrees, not daring to look directly at him. If Yi Qinghan had been assassinated by Ma Rugi, Qi Fantian would definitely have a different appearance. Now that Ma Rugi had been forcefully killed, he could only bow and scrape. Yi Qinghan glanced at the crowd and said in a low voice, "I am not a member of the Sky Sword sect, and I will not be one in the future. However, I will add fuel to the fire for the glory of the Sky Sword sect. From tomorrow onwards, Jiangning County will no longer have a county king's mansion, only the Sky Sword sect." "What? There was no Duke Manor, only the Heaven Sword sect. What is he trying to do?" Jian Ao's expression changed. The county king's mansion was backed by the kingdom of Azure Sun. "Jian Ao, listen to me. If someone at the same cultivation level defeats Meng Shi and injures her, I definitely won't interfere. But if someone secretly attacks her and you don't dare to protect them, I'll raise your Sky Sword sect to the ground." Yi Qinghan said ruthlessly. He transmitted the secret technique of the extreme Tao divine dragon steps into Yi Mengshi's sea of consciousness. At the same time, he added a restriction. If Yi Mengshi hadn't reached the peak of the blood ignition realm, she definitely wouldn't be able to use such a terrifying secret technique. Shah, Yi Qinghan pulled out his heavy berserk saber, swept up Ma Ru Gui's corpse, and stepped out of the Heaven Sword sect. When the parrot saw Yi Qinghan leave, it patted little Meng Shi's shoulder and said in a deep voice, "Little mistress, work hard on your cultivation. We will meet again." Yi Qinghan left resolutely. He didn't even turn back to look at Yi Mengshi, causing her eyes to fill with pearl-like tears. Yi Qinghan was leaving. From the moment Wang Shufei saw him, he was certain that such a terrifying monster wouldn't stay in Jiangning County for long. Yi Qinghan didn't even bid farewell to Wang Shi. He downed a jar of wine and didn't look back. Otherwise, it would only be sad. A whirlwind blew, and the bitter cold winter caused snow to fall like goose feathers. Yi Qinghan walked step by step towards Jiangning County City. In the Jiangning County King's mansion, Situ Yunxiao had a complacent expression as he waited for the good news. However, he didn't expect that the news he received would make him go completely crazy. Report. Sky Sword Sect has important news. A black-clothed man hurriedly rushed into the king's mansion, forgetting the most basic rules. Ha ha ha, is Yi Qinghan dead? Situ Yunxiao was in a good mood and didn't blame the black-clothed man. Yi Qinghan didn't die. Blood fiend Horse Rugi was nailed to death in the martial arts arena. The black-clothed man knelt on the ground, not even daring to raise his head. Pa! Situ Yunxiao smashed the table with his palm. His expression changed greatly as he shouted in a low voice, "How is this possible? Did that old thing from Sky Sword Sect make a move?" No, it was Yi Qinghan who killed Horse Rugi with a single slash. Even the cliff of weapon sword peak was split in half. The black-clothed man crawled on the ground in fear. His entire body trembled because Situ Yunxiao's killing intent had enveloped the entire room. Are you kidding me? How old is Yi Qinghan? He killed Horse Rugi with a single slash. Why don't you say that he split the sky with a single slash? Situ Yunxiao roared as he grabbed the black-clothed man by the collar and lifted him up. His killing intent was everywhere as he coldly shouted, "Who sent this news?" It was a secret sentry from Sky Sword Sect. He said that Yi Qinghan already took Horse Rugi's corpse and left Sky Sword Sect. Before he left, he said. The black-clothed man trembled and didn't dare to continue speaking. What did he say? If you have anything to say, then say it. If you dare to stutter, I'll kill you. Situ Yunxiao coldly shouted as he flung the black-clothed man away. He said that from tomorrow onwards, Jiangning County will no longer have a king's mansion. There will only be Sky Sword Sect. Boom, the black-clothed man's head was smashed by Situ Yunxiao and he was kicked out of the hall. Hee, you want to raise my king's mansion to the ground? I'll wait for you. Situ Yunxiao had a cruel smile as he stared at the snowy night sky. Adorned with white snow, the small city's night scenery was magnificent as if it was a fairyland. Outside the city, a vigorous young man held a golden glory token and quickly entered Jiangning County without encountering any obstructions. Sha sha sha, his footsteps on the snow emitted a horrifying sound. The footprints were quickly sealed by the snow and the figure gradually disappeared. Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Qin Zheng and Sun Fizi were sitting in a luxurious hall surrounded by ancient objects that emitted a desolate aura. Jiangning County is going to be overturned. Qin Zheng's face was heavy. He didn't know if Yi Qinghan's arrival was a blessing or a curse. How did he do it? He killed Horse Rugi with a single slash. Even in the entire kingdom of Green Sun, there might not be anyone who could do it. Sun Fizi exclaimed. A month ago, Yi Qinghan was still a trash who could beat up anyone who wanted to. A month later, he killed a branch leader of Blood Fiend. Has the reincarnation of a supreme expert suddenly become enlightened? Qin Zheng whispered. Ta 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 ta, a series of noises came from outside and attracted the attention of Qin Zheng and Sun Fizi. They rushed out of the hall and arrived at the front yard of Spirit Treasures Pavilion. They saw a group of servants and guards looking at the newcomers in horror. It was Yi Qinghan. He was carrying a 7-foot-long saber with a corpse hanging from it. Who else could it be but Horse Rugi? Mr. Yi, you. Qin Zheng couldn't help but ask in shock when he saw Horse Rugi's legs were chopped off and his corpse hanging from the saber. Who is the strongest person in Blood Fiend? Yi Qinghan stood proudly in the front yard and asked coldly. Blood Fiend's leader is a Grotto Heaven Realm expert who is comparable to the Pavilion Master of Spirit Treasures Pavilion. It is a famous assassin organization on Owl Falling Star and a 4th-grade force. They are also one of the strongest forces on Owl Falling Star. No one dares to offend them, Qin Zheng said in a deep voice. Grotto Heaven Realm was divided into 4 subrealms: Sky Treading, Sky Dancing, Hidden Dragon, and Sky Hooking. Sky Treading naturally referred to flight. If one wanted to break free from the shackles of the earth, one must be in Grotto Heaven Realm. Of course, Yi Qinghan could use extreme divine dragon steps to fly for a short period of time. He could maintain it for less than 5 breaths and it would exhaust all of his Jin Yuan. Sky dancing meant that one could completely control flight and fly in the air for a long time like a bird. It seemed no different from Sky Treading Realm, but the difference was as great as heaven and earth. The difference in battle strength was 100 times greater. At Hidden Dragon Realm, one could fly in the sky and dive into the ground. One's body would be like a dragon and one's strength would be able to destroy the world. At Sky Hooking Realm, one could truly see through the mysteries of heaven and earth and borrow the power of heaven and earth to destroy a small star without a problem. Although Yi Qinghan was confident, he wasn't so confident that he could kill someone at the Grotto Heaven Realm as a Blood Ignition Realm cultivator. Even an ordinary Ascendant Realm cultivator would be defeated as long as the battle lasted for a few breaths. Make a deal with me, Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. He had to make some preparations for Yi Mingxi's safety. What kind of deal? Qin Zheng's eyes lit up. If Yi Qinghan was really the reincarnation of a great expert, then anything he threw out would be comparable to a supreme treasure. Help me bring Mingxi and my mother to Lingbao Pavilion's headquarters and have Jian Qinxue, the head disciple of Jade Maiden Peak, guard them. You have to ensure their safety. As for the conditions, I will give you a complete set of 4th-grade alchemy techniques, including the recipes for Bone Replenishing Pill, Divinity Breaking Pill, Hidden Dragon Pill, and other 4th-grade alchemy techniques. This is for Lingbao Pavilion's headquarters. As for you, I will give you a peerless 4th-grade offensive secret technique, 9 consecutive arrow technique, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Qin Zheng's eyes almost popped out. 4th-grade alchemy techniques. 4th-grade 9 consecutive arrow technique. There was no other secret technique on Owlfall Planet that could be compared to them. This was more than just a supreme treasure. If you accept this deal, your Lingbao Pavilion will be tied to my back. If you can't protect the 3 of them, I will raise your Lingbao Pavilion to the ground. Yi Qinghan's killing intent burst out as he stared at Qin Zheng. The determination in his eyes could shatter the heavens and split the earth. Lingbao Pavilion was an organization that prioritized benefits above all else. As long as there were benefits, they would dare to risk their lives. This was also the reason why Yi Qinghan chose them. In addition, Lingbao Pavilion had the right to speak on Owlfall Planet. No one would offend the powerful Lingbao Pavilion for the sake of a few women's lives. Qin Zheng's body shook visibly. He could feel that Yi Qinghan could really do it. He threw out a 4th-grade secret technique without even blinking. This meant that he didn't care at all. I agree. In addition, I will stay by their side and protect them. As long as I don't die, no one will be able to hurt them. Qin Zheng thought of the 9 consecutive arrow technique and was unable to contain his excitement. He couldn't wait to get his hands on the technique. Sun Fizi looked at Yi Qinghan. His turbid eyes were filled with excitement and happiness. In his eyes, Yi Qinghan was still a child that he had saved and protected. Mr. Sun, you don't have to stay in Jiangning County. I will give you the recipe for the purple light wine and the secret technique of the 8-sex heavenly dragon palm. Consider it as repayment for protecting me a while ago. Yi Qinghan looked at Sun Fizi with some emotions in his heart. He pointed his middle finger at Sun Fizi's forehead and a large amount of memories rushed into Sun Fizi's mind, including the recipe for the wine, the pill, the archery, and the 8-sex heavenly dragon palm. The benefits he received were far greater than Lingbao Pavilion. The 8-sex heavenly dragon palm was considered a famous palm technique in the entire boundless universe. It was extremely powerful. Thank you. Qinghan, this old man's life was saved by you. If it wasn't for the purple light wine, I might have reached the end of my lifespan. Sun Fizi said respectfully. I, Yi Qinghan, do not owe anyone anything. Yi Qinghan said calmly. He then turned to Qin Zheng and said, from tomorrow onwards, the Jiangning County Prince's mansion will no longer exist. When you return to the Qingyang kingdom, tell them that I was the one who razed the prince's mansion to the ground. If they have any grudges, they will have to find me for revenge." After saying this, Yi Qinghan took Ma Rugi's corpse and left Lingbao Pavilion, leaving behind a dumbfounded Qin Zheng and Sun Fizi. Chapter 47. Snow swirled in the air, wanting to drown the entire world. Wu. The wind howled and the snow froze in the air, as sharp as a blade. When it came into contact with Yi Qinghan's hair, it automatically dissipated. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The proud and aloof figure took firm steps towards the Duke Manor in the center of Jiangning County. An austere aura filled the air, enveloping the heavens and earth. Jiangning County was deathly silent. Other than the sound of the wind, there were no other sounds. The lights of tens of thousands of homes were extinguished, as if they had felt the arrival of death. Everything was deathly silent. Even the dogs were unwilling to move. Some people opened their windows a little, peeking at the gradually disappearing figure. Trembling, they hurriedly shrank back into their rooms. Outside the Duke Manor, hundreds of city guards and the Jiangning army tightly surrounded the gate. A large number of archers gathered, ignoring the heavy snow, gazing into the distance. Situ Yunxiao's face was indifferent. Looking at the 10-mile-long street, a figure gradually appeared in his eyes, the corners of his mouth curling into a sneer. "There is a path to heaven but you don't want to walk, there is no door to hell but you charge in. Today I want to see how you will kill a bitter sea stage expert." Situ Yunxiao was arrogant. He was only 50 years old and had already reached the 1 star of the bitter sea stage. In the entire Azure Sun Kingdom, he could be considered a decent genius. How could he be scared by a 16 or 17-year-old blood ignition stage rookie? 300 meters, 200 meters. The seemingly slow pace was in fact extremely fast, as if he was teleporting. This caused Situ Yunxiao's pupils to shrink. The hundreds of city guards and soldiers of the Jiangning army constantly retreated. Looking at Yi Qinghan, they felt as if their souls were about to be sealed in ice. 100 meters, 50 meters. Halt! The commander of the city guards personally stepped forward, shouting. Rustle, rustle, rustle. His response was not to stop, but to increase his speed. Yi Qinghan swung his blade, throwing Ma Rugi's corpse in front of the Duke Manor. His body was like an arrow, shattering the earth. White snow rushed in reverse, a cold light flashed, and blade chi swept in all directions. Shoot! Shoot for me! Shio, shio, shio. Thousands of arrows were shot, cutting through the air. Like shooting stars, they instantly surrounded Yi Qinghan. Open! Yi Qinghan's blade, directly cutting the stone slab outside of the Duke Manor. He raised his long blade, the earth, and the sharp arrows. Boom! The stone slab collided with the sharp arrow and exploded. Along with the heavy snow, it rushed madly towards the Duke's manor. Swish! Yi Qinghan crushed the ground with his foot and charged straight at the army. Wherever his long saber went, it was unstoppable. The saber radiance was unstoppable and unstoppable. Large numbers of corpses were cut in half at the waist. Ah! Demon! You will die a horrible death. The blood-curdling screams broke the deathly stillness of Jiangning County. The stench of blood permeated the air and was carried by the fierce winds to a radius of several kilometers. Large patches of blood stained the ground red and soon froze into ice. The blood-colored ice was a ghastly sight, and the blood-colored snow was even more chilling. The basic blade technique was executed without any flaws. Even if the 250-gene heavy wild blade didn't have a blade core, it could still smash a blood ignition realm cultivator to death, not to mention a group of soldiers around the 8th body refinement layer. Those who don't retreat will die. A furious roar like spring thunder struck down from the 9th heaven, deafening to the point of collapse. The city defense army felt a chill run down their spines. They were not proper soldiers. They were only there to protect the daily peace of Jiangning County. As for the Jiangning Legion, they were just a second-rate legion. How could they withstand such a massacre? Whoever dares to retreat will die. Kill him for me. Situ Yunxiao suddenly stood up. The 10 black-clothed men behind him followed closely to protect him, their killing intent filling the air. Attack for me. Today, we will exhaust him to death. I don't believe that a blood ignition realm cultivator can store that much true essence. Situ Yunxiao's heart turned cold. Facing such a powerful attack, he did not have the confidence to kill Yi Qinghan. He could only hope to use the lives of his men to stop Yi Qinghan's temporary madness. As long as his edge was extinguished, there was nothing to fear. The 10 black-clothed men also charged into the fray, but Yi Qinghan's momentum was unstoppable. With a single step, he killed 10 people. With a single slash of his blade, whether it was their weapons or their bodies, everything was cut in half. Puchi. Kacha, the crisp sound of broken bones and broken swords penetrated the eardrums of everyone. Yi Qinghan was getting closer and closer to the king's palace. His eyes were cold and his lips curled into a cold smile. You want to rely on these mortals to stop my footsteps and waste my strength? What a fool's dream! Yi Qinghan roared. His aura erupted, and with a sweep of his blade, there was no one within 10 meters of him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, in a short 10 breaths of time, less than half of the 400 city guards and the Jiangning army remained. Yi Qinghan's breathing did not even change. Situ Yunxiao, do you want to come with me, or do you want me to raise your king's palace to the ground and take your head with me? Yi Qinghan held the blade core in one hand and the heavy berserk saber in the other. He raised his eyes slightly and coldly looked at Situ Yunxiao. The sky-splitting will in his eyes looked down on the earth. It could not be blasphemed. Situ Yunxiao's breath stagnated. His mouth twitched as he disdainfully asked, "Where are you going?" "To see someone." Yi Qinghan coldly said. "See who?" Situ Yunxiao frowned. "See Yi Chen." Situ Yunxiao was most familiar with the name Yi Chen. This name had tortured him for over 10 years. Kakik, Situ Yunxiao clenched his fists and stared at Yi Qinghan. He smiled cruelly and said, "That damn father of yours has already been in hell for 5 years. If you want to see him, this old man can send you on your way." Woo-woo, the wind whistled and the murderous aura messed up Yi Qinghan's black hair. "It seems like you want me to start a massacre. Then from now on, there will no longer be a king's palace in Jiangning County." Yi Qinghan's heart was like a boulder. He never showed mercy to his enemies. If he could kill, he would kill. "Wait, Yi Qinghan. From the moment you revealed that you could cultivate, you had already lost. Now, there is only one path left for you, death." Situ Yunxiao felt Yi Qinghan's murderous aura and immediately said coldly, 2 hours ago, a death warrior left Jiangning County and took away 500 low-grade spirit crystals. As long as I am defeated or die here today, the 500 spirit crystals will be the money to buy your life. Whoever kills you will receive the 500 low-grade spirit crystals. 500 spirit crystals could attract many bitter sea stage experts to act. At that time, Yi Qinghan would have enemies all over the world. Ha ha ha. 500 low-grade spirit crystals can buy my life. Yi Qinghan laughed wildly, full of mockery. The saber core slammed into the violent heavy saber. Its aura collapsed and went against the heavens. So what if the whole world is my enemy? At most, I will crush this Shaoyun star. An arrogant voice caused the snow to stop and freeze in mid-air. It was as if time and space were frozen. Yi Qinghan's aura rose. Even a 5th-grade violent heavy saber emitted an arrogant aura that was difficult to resist. Situ Yunxiao sucked in a breath of cold air. He took out a 4th-grade spirit sword and placed it in front of him to protect himself. He was intimidated by Yi Qinghan's aura and did not dare to move recklessly. "If you don't retreat, then you will all be buried with him." With a cold shout, the violent heavy saber was unsheathed. The saber chi was unstoppable, and the saber light shot out in all directions. Violent mountain-breaking style. Hum. Schwa. Boom, the saber hummed like a tiger and a dragon. The luxurious county king's mansion collapsed, flattened by the saber chi. The speed was too fast, so fast that no one could react. Situ Yunxiao only saw him lift the saber a second ago, and in the next second, the saber chi poured out of his body. The fourth-grade spirit weapon in front of his chest did not have any effect. Even his body was cut in half by the saber light. The land within 1,000 meters was flattened by the saber. The county king's mansion was crushed by true essence, turning into fine powder that scattered away with the wind. Yi Qinghan staggered. He felt as if his soul was about to leave his body and his divine sense was in chaos. He stabbed his saber into the ground and grasped a spirit crystal in his palm, crazily absorbing the spiritual energy within it. The palm-sized spirit crystal quickly dimmed and turned into fine powder. With a light pinch, it scattered away with the wind. The boundless spiritual energy turned into a trickle that rushed into his chi sea. It was like the eye of the sea, spreading out in all directions. It filled his blood and marrow, quickly restoring his combat strength. A second spirit crystal appeared, and in the blink of an eye, it was sucked dry. Yi Qinghan looked at the shattered spirit crystal and couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. This sort of low-level spirit crystal did not have much use for him. It was only slightly better than the purple light wine. As far as the eye could see, besides the corpses and broken walls, there was not a single person left standing. Situ Yunxiao's pupils dilated. Even in death, he had no idea how Yi Qinghan had managed to unleash such a terrifying attack. Yi Qinghan pulled out his saber core and walked 10 meters in a single step. He reached out and cut off Situ Yunxiao's head, quickly leaving the county king's mansion. No one dared to stop him, not even the Jiangning army that had heard the commotion. The raised county king's mansion was in an incomparably tragic state, shivering in the cold wind. What a terrifying attack! If such an attack were to hit the army, would we be able to stop it? The army commander's face was deathly pale. The army automatically moved aside, not daring to look directly at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan carried Situ Yunxiao's head and quickly rushed out of Jiangning County, heading straight for Myriad Mountain Town. Woo-woo, Yi Qinghan's clothes fluttered in the wind. Like a hidden dragon, his feet left no footprints on the snow. The next day, at Myriad Mountain Town, at the foot of Blood Bone Mountain, Yi Qinghan shattered Yi Chen's grave with his saber, took out the coffin, and directly carried it back to the Yi clan. Everyone in the Yi clan saw Yi Qinghan carrying the coffin and carrying a head. They were so scared that their faces turned ashen, especially those of the younger generation. When they saw Yi Qinghan, their bodies trembled. Yi Kuang personally came out to welcome him. When he saw Yi Qinghan carrying Situ Yunxiao's head, he clamped his legs together and felt a piercing pain in his spine. "You killed County King Situ." Yi Kuang was not happy, but shocked. He felt as if the sky had collapsed. "I don't need to explain anything to you. Take me to the ancestral grounds," Yi Qinghan coldly said. "Okay." Yi Kuang was drenched in cold sweat. He quickly brought Yi Qinghan to the ancestral grounds behind the mountain. In the ancestral grounds behind the Yi clan, the graves formed a huge cemetery. Every member of the Yi clan was buried here, meaning that they returned to their roots. The higher the grave, the higher the status, and the greater the contribution to the Yi clan. Halfway up the mountain, the Yi clan's old ancestor was located. Yi Qinghan carried the coffin to the middle of the mountain. He dug a deep hole next to the old ancestor's grave and placed the coffin in it. He set up a stone tablet and carved a few words on it. Then, he placed Situ Yunxiao's head in front of the tablet. "Although you are not my real father in soul, you are my father in blood. I helped you raise the county king's mansion. I hope you can rest in peace. Yi Qinghan deeply bowed and said in a low voice. After burying Yi Chen, the secular world was over. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath, turned around, and left the mountain. When he arrived at the Yi clan, he looked at everyone without any emotion. Chapter 48. Endless snowy mountains rose and fell, and a lone figure was traveling far away. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, and silver light decorated the mountains and rivers. There were no other colors. Hey, why don't we go to the 100,000 mountains? I can't feel the slightest bit of spiritual energy if we go to this godforsaken place. The white parrot looked at the road ahead and couldn't help but cry out in dissatisfaction. I can only unleash the power of one strike. Are we courting death if we go to the depths of the 100,000 mountains? Yi Qinghan was too lazy to look at the parrot. Then where are we going? I'll tell you the truth. There are no treasures nearby, and you don't want the treasures in the Sky Sword sect. Really? The parrot shook its head and sighed with disappointment. It's not a good thing for me to take the treasures in the Sky Sword sect. Let's go east now. Our next stop should be ancient Lulan. Yi Qinghan carried the heavy berserk saber that weighed a few hundred kilograms and walked into the distance. The far west of the Kingdom of Azure Sun was a barren land. The closer one went to the east, the stronger the spiritual energy, the stronger the cultivators, and the better the treasures. The Azure Sun Desert was a natural barrier that separated ancient Lulan and the Kingdom of Azure Sunday. Otherwise, with ancient Lulan's strength, it could have annexed the Kingdom of Azure Sun long ago. The snow on the neighboring mountain was getting less and less, and there was some sunlight ahead. Yi Qinghan quickened his pace and stepped over a hill that was dozens of meters high. The Eastern civilization came into view. Vast ancient forests with towering trees and majestic spiritual energy formed waves of air. It was simply inconceivable that the Kingdom of Azure Sun, separated by a mountain, was so barren. Wow, what a great place! The parrot's eyes glowed as it drooled. Green mountains and clear waters, hundreds of flowers bloomed, and there was no trace of cold. The strange geographical environment made Yi Qinghan exclaim in amazement. There are spiritual herbs ahead, a large area of second-grade spiritual herbs. The parrot suddenly pointed to the southeast and shouted. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. Second-grade spiritual herbs cost an average of 100 taels of silver per stalk, which was equivalent to 1 tael of gold. If it was a large area, it would be a good profit. Whoosh, stepping on the green grass, each step covered a distance of tens of meters. A small river flowed towards the east, crossing from east to west. On both sides of the 20-meter-wide river, there were spiritual grasses everywhere, full of spiritual energy. Yi Qinghan didn't ask what they were used for. He began to harvest them on a large scale. He collected thousands of second-grade spirit herbs in a row. Finally, he found a third-grade spirit herb. He put it in his bag and prepared to go to the big city. When they arrived at the end of the river, they found a natural ravine in front of them. The river water flowed down, forming a huge waterfall. No wonder there are so many spiritual grasses that no one wants. It turns out that there is a heavenly sword blocking the way. Yi Qinghan looked at the bottomless chasm. The sides of the chasm were smooth, and there wasn't even a support point. Apart from birds, no one could come over from that side. As for those at the Grotto Heaven realm who could fly, they wouldn't be interested in these second-grade spirit herbs. Yi Qinghan retreated more than 10 meters. He increased his speed and charged forward like an arrow, crushing a mountain rock with his foot. Yi Qinghan had actually jumped across the bottomless ravine, which was 50 meters wide and 50 meters deep without any protection. Oh my God! You scared me to death. The parrot grabbed Yi Qinghan's clothes and shouted. It didn't remember that it was a bird that could fly. Boom, Yi Qinghan was still in the air, about 5 meters away from the other side. However, He used up all his energy and fell straight down. He pulled out the heavy berserk saber on his back and stabbed it into the cliff. Hua hua hua, large amounts of rocks fell down. Yi Qinghan used the heavy berserk saber to cut the cliff, creating sparks as he fell faster and faster. Damn! I'm finished. I'll definitely fall to my death. Get lost. You bitch. You're a bird, can't you fly up and give me a push? Oh, yes, I'm a divine bird. The parrot seemed to have reacted. It kept flapping its wings and looked at Yi Qinghan's falling figure. It couldn't help but laugh, ha ha ha, idiot, this grandpa can fly. Yi Qinghan had already fallen more than 30 meters, but he still couldn't find a support point. He was so angry by the parrot's words that he wanted to pull out his heavy berserk saber and chop this bitch. Boom, Yi Qinghan glanced at a protruding support point. He stepped on it and stabbed his heavy berserk saber into the mountain, breaking the support point under his feet. Whoosh! The sound of air breaking could be heard in the canyon. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but feel a chill. If he fell, there was no reason for him to be lucky. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to delay. He quickly took out Ma Rugi's blood-bone dagger from his universe ring and used the heavy berserk saber and the dagger as a support point to climb up. Come on! The parrot carelessly cried out. Yi Qinghan climbed to the top of the cliff with difficulty. His face was red and he was constantly panting. Huff, 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 master's physical strength is good. The parrot said with a smug face. Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed the parrot's wings. He fiercely threw it to the bottom of the cliff. Its screams echoed through the valley. Fuck. It's useless. It's just giving me trouble. Yi Qinghan was flustered and exasperated. He directly cursed. After a long time, the parrot flew up from the bottom of the cliff. Its claws were holding an almost fully formed ginseng. It was full of spiritual energy and looked very lifelike. Master, don't be angry. I found something good for you. The parrot put down the ginseng and said flatteringly. Yi Qinghan didn't really want to be angry with this bitch bird. He looked down at the ginseng and his eyes couldn't help but light up. Sky Spirit Ginseng? Isn't this a 4th grade elixir? Of course, I found it at the bottom of the cliff. I thought that master must have been cultivating day and night, so I brought it up to show my respect to you. The parrot didn't dare to show off anymore. It pushed the Sky Spirit Ginseng to Yi Qinghan's side. Yi Qinghan unceremoniously put it away. He shook his head and said helplessly, let's go into the city. We'll sell these elixirs and herbs and see if we can buy pills that are suitable for us. A man and a bird quickly went down the cliff and came to a vast forest. Powerful fierce beasts ran amok. Eagles flew over their heads as if provoking them. But Yi Qinghan's qi and blood were too vigorous. Almost no fierce beasts dared to directly pounce on them. They sped all the way to the east. As long as they left the forest, they would be in the endless eastern civilization, the ancient Lulan country. The forest stretched for hundreds of miles. There were many nearby villages that hunted and searched for treasures. There were very few fierce beasts that were 3rd grade Bitter Sea realm and above. It was a paradise for adventurers. The Coiling Tiger Battle Squad had 6 people. They were all experts of the Blood Ignition realm. The leader was Coiling Tiger. He was a middle-aged man that was as strong as a tiger or bear. He was over 2 meters tall and held a large axe in his hand. He led the team to train in the forest. There were 4 men and 2 women. Other than Coiling Tiger, they were all around 20 years old. The 2 women couldn't be considered beautiful, but their figures were hot. Their clothes were also strange. Their legs were exposed, long and slender, and as white as celestial jade. A woo, a mournful wolf howl reverberated for dozens of miles. Then, wave after wave of wolf howls spread out in all directions. The expressions of Coiling Tiger and the others changed. They hurriedly put down the roasted meat in their hands and stood back to back in defense. They looked around and discovered that a large pack of second-grade high-level wolves had surrounded them. There were at least 30 of them. 30 Blood Ignition Realm experts. There were also a few existences that were equivalent to the middle stage of the Blood Ignition realm. The Wolf King was even at the peak of the Blood Ignition realm. It's over. We've been surrounded. A young man cried out. Stay calm. Shoot with all your might. Coiling Tiger tightened his grip on his crossbow. He knocked 3 iron arrows and shot them out with all his might. Shio shio shio, more than 10 iron arrows pierced through the air and shot toward the wolf pack. However, the wolf pack's speed was much faster than they had imagined. With just a few dodges, they all evaded. Awoo, the Wolf King once again howled, ordering the wolf pack to attack. The remaining Blood Ignition experts supported each other as they did their best to block the wolf pack. They managed to kill a few of the weaker wolves, but one of the youths was also bitten to death by the wolf pack, opening up a gap. The others also suffered some light injuries. However, Coiling Tiger relied on his brute strength to forcibly push back the wolf pack. Looking around, the young man who had been bitten had already been dismembered. His legs had been bitten off, and there was a fist-sized hole in his throat. His neck had almost been bitten off. We're dead for sure. Uncle Hu, I don't want to die. Woo woo. Uncle Hu, what should we do? The 2 men and 2 women huddled together. Seeing the wolf pack about to attack again, their eyes were filled with despair. Fight. Our speed is not as fast as theirs. If we retreat now, we'll definitely die. Coiling Tiger gripped his huge axe and angrily glared at the Wolf King. His expression sank as he said to the people behind him, "You guys fight with your lives on the line. I'll go kill the Wolf King." Yi Qinghan frowned and looked toward the southeast. Hearing the wolf howls, he decided to change direction. "Master, there's high-grade Ling Qi in that direction. Don't you want to go take a look?" the parrot hurriedly said. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. The wolf pack was not a threat to him. If there really was a good treasure, then it was reasonable to waste some energy. Around 10 miles away, Yi Qinghan cautiously walked toward the direction the parrot had pointed out. However, he didn't know that this place had become hell on earth. The second wave of attacks was launched. The wolf pack once again pounced on 4 people. Their sharp teeth shattered rocks and iron. One of them was careless and was bitten in the leg. He was quickly dragged away by the wolf pack. His heart-wrenching scream caused the 2 girls to turn pale. Their bodies went limp and they no longer had the strength to fight. However, Coiling Tiger had also reached the Wolf King and was attacking with all his might. In this short period of time, the Wolf King and the Wolf King were both injured. Huff, 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 Coiling Tiger's huge axe was swung vigorously, leaving no blind spots. However, his energy consumption was also astonishing. If they couldn't kill the Wolf King in a short period of time, they would definitely be wiped out. Wolves were extremely patient, not to mention a second-rank Wolf King. They quickly dodged and didn't fight head-on with Coiling Tiger. After an incense stick's worth of time, Coiling Tiger was gasping for breath. Seeing that his stamina was about to run out, the 3 youths felt even more despair. At this moment, Yi Qinghan brought the parrot to the front of the battlefield. He swept his gaze over the wolf pack and asked, "Is the high-grade Ling Qi you mentioned here?" "It's in the valley opposite. It's behind that big wolf dog." The parrot pointed at the Wolf King and said, "Big wolf dog?" The Wolf King had noticed Yi Qinghan the moment he arrived. Sensing danger, it quickly separated from Coiling Tiger and angrily glared at Yi Qinghan. Hearing the parrot call it a big wolf dog, it couldn't help but reveal its savage fangs. Chapter 49. The Wolf King angrily glared at Yi Qinghan and the parrot, constantly growling and threatening them. Coiling Tiger and the rest saw that the Wolf King was actually afraid of Yi Qinghan, a young man who was only at the early stage of the blood ignition realm. They were both surprised and happy. "Brother! Save our lives. Once we get out of this forest, we will definitely repay you." Coiling Tiger swallowed a few true elemental dawn and took the opportunity to recover his strength. He did not forget to ask for help. "Young master, save us. These fire cloud wolves seem to be very afraid of you." The two lucky survivors and the only remaining young man had their clothes torn and were riddled with wounds. Seeing Yi Qinghan, they finally saw hope and hurriedly begged. Yi Qinghan's killing intent was too heavy. Every move of his was linked to the general situation. As a human, it was very difficult to detect. However, these intelligent animals could easily sense the threat from Yi Qinghan. "Big wolf dogs, scram! You are blocking the master's path." The parrot looked at the dozens of wolves and disdainfully said. "Awu!" The Wolf King let out a low howl. More than 20 fire cloud wolves bared their teeth and howled. They all rushed towards Yi Qinghan. These low-level vicious beasts liked to live in packs. They had high intelligence and were very united. Especially the fire attribute fire cloud wolves. The fire poison in their teeth was very strong. Even if a blood ignition realm expert was bitten, if they were not treated in time, they would very likely die. However, these fire cloud wolves were very easy to deal with. They revered the fire element and were afraid of all creatures that could breathe fire. They would worship powerful creatures that could breathe fire as gods. In his previous life, the Yi clan had raised many fire cloud wolves to guard their home. Breathe fire and drive them away. Yi Qinghan did not stop and quickly walked towards the Wolf King. "Hua!" The parrot opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of fire. The Wolf King was startled. It immediately lay down and howled, expressing its submission. "Ha ha ha! This divine bird said that I was a high-level divine bird. These big wolf dogs are afraid of me." Seeing the Wolf King submit, the parrot immediately became very cocky. The Wolf King surrendered, and so did the 20 or so fire cloud wolves behind it. They all looked at the parrot in a different way, as if they were mortals looking at a god. "Tell them to retreat. Don't waste time," Yi Qinghan said coldly. He no longer wanted to communicate with this stupid bird. The parrot shouted, "Get up, walk 2 laps, and get the hell out of here." The Wolf King understood human nature and understood what the parrot was saying. It hesitated for a moment, then got up and circled around twice. Then, it led the pack of fire cloud wolves and rushed into the distance. Yi Qinghan glanced at Coiling Tiger and said in a low voice, "You guys wait here for me. I need a tour guide later." Yi Qinghan's simple stare caused Coiling Tiger's entire body to tremble, as if he was being stared at by a bitter sea stage expert. Even if he was at the peak of the blood ignition stage, he did not dare to refute Yi Qinghan's words. "Yes, young master." Coiling Tiger respectfully replied. Yi Qinghan took the parrot and rushed towards a valley in front of him, leaving the 4 people looking around in horror. "Uncle Tiger, is that person senior? Why does his cultivation seem so ethereal, like he's at the blood ignition stage, but also like a bitter sea stage expert?" one of the young girls asked in shock. "I don't know, but I also have the same feeling. His entire person seems ethereal. However, he saved our lives, so let's not think too much about it. You guys quickly recover your strength. We'll wait for him for a while," Coiling Tiger said in a low voice. Their mood was very gloomy. Looking at the bitten corpses, they felt as if their hearts were being cut by a knife. The powerful Coiling Tiger battle squad was very united. Their relationship with each other was like that of a life and death situation. Losing 2 of their core members in one go was definitely painful. Within the valley, Yi Qinghan scanned his surroundings. The beautiful environment with green mountains and clear waters, with tender willows hanging on the surface of the lake. A gentle breeze blew, causing layers of waves to appear. It was too beautiful to behold. At the bottom of the lake. There are treasures. They're definitely worth a lot. The parrot was incomparably excited. It stared at the large lake for a while and said with satisfaction, "The bottom of the lake is very safe. There are no large beasts. Don't worry, I'll keep watch for you on the shore." Yi Qinghan clearly did not believe the words of this lowly bird. His divine sense passed through the surface of the lake and went straight to the bottom. He discovered that the lake was more than 10 meters deep and there were indeed no large beasts. In the center of the lake, there was a large black iron box that emitted a faint pressure. If he did not take the initiative to go to the bottom, he would not have discovered this iron box. The iron box attracted spiritual energy to continuously gather at the bottom of the lake. It was very strange. Plop! That Yi Qinghan jumped into the bottom of the lake. Holding the heavy berserk blade, he quickly reached the bottom. He discovered that the spiritual energy at the bottom of the lake was so dense that it was almost liquid. He could not help but marvel at what was inside the iron box. It was actually able to gather so much spiritual energy at the bottom of the lake. Good water. If I can use the water at the bottom of the lake to refine purple light wine, the effect would definitely be 4 or 5 times stronger. Yi Qinghan secretly said to himself. He grabbed the iron box and placed it into the heaven and earth ring. Then, he took out a heaven and earth pot and filled it with more than 500 pounds of lake water. He quickly went ashore. Using his true essence to dry his clothes, Yi Qinghan took out the iron box. He discovered that the iron box was actually completely sealed. There were no gaps, but the inside was hollow. Moreover, there were treasures hidden within. This kind of thing could only be created by a high-level refiner. Just this iron box alone could be worth several hundred low-grade spirit crystals. Yi Qinghan forced out a drop of blood essence to make the iron box recognize him as its master. With a move of his divine sense, the iron box automatically opened, causing his eyes to brighten. It was a very delicate set of spirit-gathering swords. The 4 swords were about 2 feet long, sparkling and translucent. They emitted a bejeweled aura and actively gathered spiritual energy. Yi Qinghan held them in his hand and discovered that the spiritual energy was constantly rushing into his body. What a clever refiner technique. She actually managed to put a spirit-gathering array into the 4 swords. This refiner is definitely a clever woman. It is impossible for a man to be so meticulous. Yi Qinghan could not help but admire this refiner. He would not be able to learn this refiner technique in a short period of time. Otherwise, if he could put a high-level spirit-gathering array into the heavy wild saber, he would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Yi Qinghan casually played with the swords a few times. He discovered that the 4 swords were connected to each other. Once they were touched, they would move the entire body. They were unpredictable and were already comparable to a 5th-grade spirit treasure. Unfortunately, they were too light and not suitable for him to use. Giving Meng Shi is not bad. She is a qi refiner and specializes in the soul. She can control the swords. Yi Qinghan stared at the swords and pondered for a long time. He still could not figure out how this refiner managed to put such a high-level spirit-gathering array into the 4 swords. Master, not bad, right? I am very useful, right? No matter how deeply hidden a treasure is, I can find it within 100 li, the parrot said smugly. Yi Qinghan could not help but admire this kind of gifted little thing. Although it did not seem very useful and would only cause trouble for him, its treasure-hunting ability alone was enough to make anyone drool. It is indeed not bad. Wait until we enter the city. I will let you have a good meal. Yi Qinghan put the 4 swords back into the iron box and put them back into his spatial ring. Then, he stepped out of the valley. Coiling Tiger and the others looked at Yi Qinghan with reverence. They did not dare to ask anything and only spoke a few words. Young master, may I ask where you are going? I am very familiar with the surrounding several hundred li. I am at your service at any time. Coiling Tiger said respectfully. Take me out of the forest. Explain to me the third rank and above forces in ancient Lulan. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. I know. A woman dressed in sexy clothes quickly said. Let me introduce you. I am Coiling Tiger, a loose cultivator. This older girl is Huafei, 19 years old. The younger girl is her younger sister, Huiyer, 18 years old. We are all side family members of the Hua clan. This boy is Chen Song, an orphan, 20 years old. He is an expert treasure hunter of my Coiling Tiger squad. Coiling Tiger pointed at the remaining 3 people. They were all in the blood ignition realm despite their young age. This was due to the location. The spirit chi here was abundant. There were many in the blood ignition realm, but not many in the bitter sea realm. However, there were many more in the bitter sea realm than in the Azure Sun Kingdom. And, let's talk as we walk. Yi Qinghan looked at them and nodded. These people could not be considered geniuses. Their aptitudes were average. If they had good resources, it would be good if they could reach the Grotto Heaven realm. There was no need to waste time. The 5 of them walked slowly. The other 4 collected spirit herbs while explaining the division of forces in ancient Lulan to Yi Qinghan. In ancient Lulan, there were 2 4th-rank forces. One was the Lulan imperial family and the other was the Buddhist sect. Each 4th-rank force had more than 10 3rd-rank sects or clans. They were very powerful. In Flaming Cloud City, the Hua clan was a 3rd-rank force. The area within 500 li of Flaming Cloud City was the territory of the Hua clan. The Hua clan had more than 1,000 adult disciples. Their cultivation was not inferior to the early stages of the blood ignition realm. There were no less than 5 experts at the 3rd star of the Bitter Sea realm or above. Is there a Spirit Treasures Pavilion here? Yi Qinghan asked. The Spirit Treasures Pavilion is a force that covers the entire continent. Even 4th-rank forces are not willing to offend them. Naturally, they can stand firm in ancient Lulan, Huafei explained. However, Flaming Cloud City hasn't been peaceful recently. I don't know what's wrong with the auction house, but they actually supported a vicious force to rise up here. They fought with the Hua family several times, and both sides suffered great losses. These people went around snatching female cultivators, and now, they won't even let men go. Everyone who was captured by them mysteriously disappeared. Coiling Tiger looked at Yi Qinghan's vigorous face and thought for a moment before saying, Young master, be careful. Don't leave the city at night because they target outsiders. They will pay special attention to strangers who come to Flaming Cloud City. And, I know. Yi Qinghan did not care about the vicious force that Coiling Tiger mentioned. If someone could kidnap him, then something would really happen. However, the auction house was a legitimate force. It existed in almost every continent. For them to secretly support such a force, there must be a motive. What he really needed to pay attention to was the auction house. The group of 5 walked out of the forest after 6 hours. A large ancient city appeared in front of them. It was many times larger than Jiangning County. Ancient buildings rose from the ground. The city walls were more than 30 meters high and were surrounded by formations. Even if hundreds of Bitter Sea Realm beasts attacked the city, they would be able to resist for several months. Yi Qinghan followed Coiling Tiger and the others to the outskirts of Flaming Cloud City. He discovered that there were several strangely dressed people staring at him. Their gazes were as if they were looking at goods. He could not help but sneer. Chapter 50. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a sinister smile. Anyone who dared to plot against him in this world would either die or wait for death. The city defense army was stationed there. These people would not go so far as to capture prey in broad daylight, but they watched as Yi Qinghan entered the city. The moment he entered Lulan's fire cloud city, a desolate aura assaulted him. It was as if he had returned to the ancient era. Yi Qinghan looked at the layers of ancient buildings and felt as if he had returned to the Battle Owl Star. His heart palpitated. "Take me to the restaurant and you can leave," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice as he thought of Owl Warstar. "Young Master Yi, it's not convenient for you to stay in a restaurant alone. Moreover, you're not familiar with this place. They'll trick you. Why don't you stay at my place?" Hua Fei's eyes flickered as she spoke timidly. "That's right, Big Brother Yi. Our house is located in the periphery of the Hua clan. There's only the two of us at home. Our parents left us such a big house with many empty rooms. It's very convenient. Moreover, you've just arrived at Flaming Cloud City and will definitely need a guide. We can help you at any time." Perhaps it was Yi Qinghan's vicissitudes of life and arrogance, or perhaps it was his devilishly handsome face, or perhaps it was his mysterious aura that attracted the sisters to take the initiative to extend an olive branch and invite a strange man to stay in their home. Staying in Hua Fei's home wasn't a problem in itself. In fact, it might even attract trouble. But, Yi Qinghan truly needed a guide so that he wouldn't wander around aimlessly. If someone could act as a guide, that would naturally be good. "Is it convenient?" Yi Qinghan's voice was a little hoarse. After 2 days of running around, he really didn't want to move around anymore. "It's convenient. My house is not far from here. It's in the suburbs, so it's very quiet," Hua Fei said excitedly. When Qinsang saw Hua Fei take the initiative to invite Yi Qinghan, hostility and dissatisfaction appeared in his eyes. However, he told himself in the depths of his heart not to go against this mysterious man, so he restrained his hostility. Yi Qinghan nodded and said, "All right, I will pay you 100 taels of gold a day as a reward." Hua Fei and her sister's eyes lit up, clearly very happy. Coiling Tiger bowed and said, "Young Master Yi, thank you for saving my life. If you have any problems, you can come to the Western District to find me. If it's within my power, I won't disappoint you. All right, let's go back." Yi Qinghan gestured for Hua Fei to lead the way, and the three of them quickly ran towards the East District suburbs. Qinsang clenched his fists. The hostility in his eyes surged again as he glared at Yi Qinghan. "Don't go against him. He's very dangerous." Coiling Tiger coldly reminded Qinsang when he saw the angry Qinsang. "Uncle Hu, is this person really that strong? He didn't even make a move. It was only that little parrot on his shoulder that could breathe fire. Why don't we kill him and take his parrot? It will be much safer for us to enter the forest in the future." Qinsang viciously said. "What nonsense are you spouting? First of all, he saved us. How can we repay his kindness with enmity? Moreover, I admit that I am not his match. Even if we join hands, we might not be his match. Moreover, looking at Hua Fei and Huiya's attitude, I'm afraid that they have fallen in love with this man." Coiling Tiger coldly warned Qinsang, "It wasn't easy for you to reach this step. Don't let love get to your head. Hua Fei doesn't love you, nor does Huiya. They might look carefree, but they like the feeling of being conquered. If you want to marry either of them, you have to be stronger than them. Moreover, you have to suppress the younger generation of Flaming Cloud City. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. I can't accept this. I've liked Hua Fei for so long, and she actually invited another man to her home in front of me. Moreover, it's a stranger. I haven't received this kind of treatment in so many years." Qinsang was incomparably furious. Flames spewed from his eyes. He wanted nothing more than to burn Yi Qinghan to death. "Sigh, why bother?" Coiling Tiger shook his head. He stared at Yi Qinghan's departing figure and said in a low voice, "With my many years of experience, this child is definitely not an ordinary person. Hua Fei can't pursue him, but you still have a chance. However, you have to change your temperament. Otherwise, you will be the one to suffer. Finally, Coiling Tiger pulled Chen Sang back to the western region. Yi Qinghan followed the two beautiful sisters to a simple courtyard. It was surrounded by mountains and rivers. There were very few people, and it was very peaceful. Big brother Yi, you should rest for a while. I'll boil some hot water for you to take a bath. It will be dark soon. If you have something to do, we can do it tomorrow. How about it? Hua Fei didn't hide her adoration as she excitedly asked. Sure. Yi Qinghan was incomparably cold. He wasn't willing to say more. Hua Fei brought Huiya to arrange a small courtyard for Yi Qinghan and then left to get busy. Yoho, a hot beauty. Take. Take. The parrot grinned and said in a strange voice. Take your sister. Get lost. Don't bother me if you have nothing to do. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. Are you a man or not? You don't like men, do you? You're two beautiful sisters, and you're so hot. Why don't you take the initiative to come to my door? The parrot was dissatisfied, as if it had suffered a loss. Yi Qinghan coldly looked at the parrot. A cold light flickered in his eyes, and the parrot immediately fell silent. What a blockhead! This divine bird went to look for treasures. There are actually many good things in this city. The parrot resentfully left. It didn't know how much trouble it would bring to Yi Qinghan. Half an hour later, the two beautiful sisters brought a bucket of hot water. Yi Qinghan soaked in the bucket, using the stone milk essence to refine his body. Unfortunately, he needed too much energy, and the stone milk was no longer of any use. True essence swam through his limbs and bones. The extreme divine dragon steps turned into specks of golden light that dived into every corner of his body, fusing with the violent cycle saber arts. The tiny figure in his sea of consciousness crazily cultivated, and the large saber danced without any flaws. His soul had completely stabilized at the peak of the blood ignition realm, but his strength remained at the middle stage. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment and felt that it was time to break through to the peak of the blood ignition realm. He then took out the Sky Spirit Ginseng. The Sky Spirit Ginseng's spiritual energy was overwhelming, and it was vivid and lifelike. Even a heavenly passage realm powerhouse couldn't swallow it, but Yi Qinghan could. This was because his method of controlling true essence had already reached the pinnacle. Yi Qinghan placed the grade 4 spirit sword set on the bed and chewed on half of the Sky Spirit Ginseng. Boundless spiritual energy rushed out, rushing through his limbs and bones. His blood boiled, and his blood became extremely tyrannical. His true essence roared like a river bursting through a dam. Boom boom boom, his true essence constantly broke through the bottleneck, and a small portion of it was used to temper his body. It seemed that Yi Qinghan was preparing to forge his body into a divine weapon. His physical body was enough to destroy the heavens and earth, and he could control 10,000 spirits with one hand. Even an emperor weapon could not harm him. Now he was certain that a grade 2 spirit weapon could not harm him in the slightest. Even if an early-stage bitter sea expert used a grade 2 spirit weapon, he could still shatter it with one punch. The pressure grew stronger and stronger, enveloping the entire room. Hua Fei looked at Yi Qinghan's room. Just as she was about to approach, she was pushed back several meters by a wave of energy. Although the energy was gentle, it could rush into the depths of her sea of consciousness, filled with tyranny and arrogance. The realm of the gods, entering meant certain death. What a strong man! If we can make him stay, we may be able to break through to the Hua family's direct line of descent. Hua Fei's eyes flashed, and her jade-like hands trembled as she pulled Huiya's. Sister, will he stay? Huiya's breathing quickened as she asked nervously. If I can't do it alone, then you go too. I don't believe he can resist the charm of the two of us. Hua Fei said proudly. The two of them could not be considered to be devastatingly beautiful, but in terms of temperament, appearance, and knowledge, they were confident that they would not lose out to any woman in terms of taking care of men and pleasing them. Huiye's face flushed red as she timidly looked at Huafei. Thinking of the two sisters serving the same man at the same time, her little heart beat uncontrollably. We sisters are one, there is no distinction between each other, let alone a man. Such a man is worthy of us. Huafei said in a serious tone. And, I'll listen to sister. Huiye's face was as tender as a sprout. Remember, you have to understand men. This kind of man is old-fashioned and definitely does not like unrestrained women. We have to know when to advance and when to retreat. Charming but not seductive, beautiful but not unrestrained. We have to move his heart, not his body, understand? Huafei said in a low voice. The parents of this pair of sisters had passed away early, and they relied on Huafei to make a living. If they were not smart, they would not have lived so freely. It was very likely that they would have become the slaves of others, or even died long ago. Yi Qinghan was focused on breaking through, so he didn't know that these two beautiful sisters were discussing how to take him in. At this moment, his true essence had already formed into waves. Wave after wave spread out, creating huge waves that were several meters tall that surged within his qi sea. He was already close to the peak of the blood ignition realm. His soul did not forcefully comprehend the bitter sea stage, but instead focused on activating his true yuan. His true yuan was like a heavy wild blade, extremely tyrannical and invincible. Everywhere it passed, there was nothing that did not submit. Woo, the waves of qi formed a special heavy wild blade, formed from his true yuan. It was like a real person wielding the heavy wild blade, striking at the bottleneck. The bottleneck broke, and the bottleneck that was as stable as a boulder quickly collapsed under the continuous attacks. Heavenly divinity transformation, true yuan like a blade, wild in all directions, reversing the heavens, attacking madly, subduing the world. Break for me. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The heavy wild blade that was placed beside the bed let out a light hum, trembling, as if it was about to collapse. Bang, attacking madly, the bottleneck was completely shattered. His true yuan whizzed past, forming a cycle within his body that constantly circulated. Huafei and Huiye were enveloped by a terrifying pressure, as if they were facing an unparalleled expert. Their breathing was somewhat heavy, and their eyes were filled with fear and awe. Yi Qinghan did not care so much. He gathered more and more true yuan, but it was not enough. He did his utmost to temper his body, and the little person in his body was also cultivating the extreme divine dragon steps and the heavy wild blade technique. It was as if his soul had been split into two, controlling his true yuan. To outsiders, this was somewhat inconceivable. The remaining heavenly spirit ginseng was also swallowed by Yi Qinghan. He then restrained his aura, and the entire courtyard fell into silence. Even the birds did not dare to make a sound, and the insects also disappeared. Chapter 51. The moonlight was like water, illuminating the world and illuminating the night. Yi Qinghan walked out of his room and stretched. He felt refreshed as he bathed in the moonlight and took a deep breath of spirit energy. It was as if he could feel the laws of heaven and earth. Young Master Yi, it's time to eat. Huafei looked at Yi Qinghan in a daze. She felt that Yi Qinghan had become even more mysterious and ethereal. She had a feeling that she couldn't grasp him. Okay. Yi Qinghan nodded and followed Huafei to the main hall. There was a table full of delicious food and spirit fruits. It was hard to tell that Huafei was a chef. Yi Qinghan's appetite was greatly increased. He ate a few mouthfuls and praised, "Not bad, you're a master chef. It's good that young Master Yi likes it. I was afraid that my cooking skills were not good enough and would hurt your appetite." Huiye smiled and said modestly. Yi Qinghan smiled. He couldn't understand a woman's mind. She had been cultivating for hundreds of years. Now that she had lived a second life, she only wanted to take revenge and slaughter those hypocrites in Xiaolong region. After dinner, Yi Qinghan scanned the surroundings with his consciousness but didn't find the parrot. He asked Hua Feier, "Have you seen my parrot?" It said that it went out to look for treasures. "Young master, your parrot is so cute. It can speak human language and breathe fire. It's very smart." Hua Feier smiled. Dozens of miles away, the Hua family's spirit fruit garden was planted with large amounts of fire spirit fruits, ginseng, and other spirit herbs. This was an important place for the Hua family. Even the direct descendants had to report to the Hua family. Anyone who entered without permission would be killed without mercy. The spirit fruit garden was a few kilometers wide and was surrounded by arrays. Birds couldn't fly. A small white bird didn't fly. Instead, it crawled forward and lay on the ground like a dog. It had lost its bird status. Waha, so many spirit fruits. They are all treasures between grade 2 and grade 3. The parrot had discovered this place from several kilometers away. It was the middle of the night, and the Hua clan was confident in their spell formations. Their defenses had been lax, and the parrot had managed to sneak in. It was the harvest season in the orchard. The plump fruits and spirit grasses made people drool. There were at least dozens of spirit fruits on each fruit tree. The dragon fruit was shaped like a fire dragon. It was vivid and lifelike. Its scarlet skin was incomparably fresh and tender. It made the parrot's eyes shine. The milky moonlight made the color of the parrot's feathers even brighter, and the cosmos ring on its claw was even more dazzling. It was probably the only bird with a cosmos ring. "I'll take it. Collect. I'll take them all. Master is such an idiot. He won't accept women, and he won't accept treasures. I wonder if his brain is made of wood." The parrot was in a particularly bad mood. He grabbed the spirit fruit and shoved it into the ring. The parrot plucked all the feathers from the geese. Wherever it passed, except for the dried green fruits, all the good things were taken away by it, especially the dragon fruit, which was full of fire elements. It was the parrot's favorite, and it couldn't wait to take away the dragon fruit tree. There were tens of thousands of ginseng, and all of them were second-grade spirit fruits. Some of them were hundreds of years old, but most of them were only a few years old. They couldn't be used as medicine, but they were the essence of the Hua family. The parrot's nose was like a dog's nose. It picked up more than a dozen ginseng, and none of them were less than 200 years old. Gee, the Hua family is really rich. Master is really shabby compared to them. Forget it, I don't dislike him. Robbing the rich to help the poor is this divine bird's favorite thing to do. I'll rob some money to help him. The parrot shook its head. It had an exasperated look on its face, and it made people speechless. The cosmos ring had a built-in space of dozens of square meters, but it was unexpectedly stuffed full. There were more than 300 dragon fruits, more than 200-year-old ginseng, several spirit grasses, and countless other spirit fruits. The parrot was somewhat reluctant to leave the orchard. It hid in the woods and began to eat. It didn't disturb anyone until midnight. It took advantage of the darkness of the night, and ran back home. Yi Qinghan looked at the parrot, who had a guilty conscience. He couldn't help but ask curiously, "Where did you go?" "Nothing. I was bored, so I went out for a stroll," the parrot said in a serious manner. It obviously wanted to take care of the house by itself. It was best to have good things in its own hands. "Impossible. You've put on a lot of weight. You must have eaten a lot of spirit herbs." Yi Qinghan glanced at the fat parrot, and found that it had really put on a lot of weight. It wouldn't be able to fly if it continued like this. Put on a lot of weight? Impossible. I've been eating only vegetables recently. The parrot was angry. It opened its eyes wide and glared at Yi Qinghan. It found that he had taken out a mirror and aimed it at it. In the mirror, there was a fat parrot. It looked like a round ball. It had already become unrecognizable. Fuck! Who is this? The parrot screamed. It was scared by its own reflection in the mirror, and quickly jumped back. You pig, if you get any fatter, I'll definitely roast you and eat you. Yi Qinghan snorted and threw the mirror away. The spiritual energy in the parrot's body was extremely dense. It was comparable to a fourth-grade spirit pill. If it continued for a long time, it could become a ninth-grade spirit pill. Yi Qinghan suddenly suspected that the ancestor of this devouring soul parrot had been roasted and eaten by its owner in the end. I'm on a diet. There's nothing to eat. Hee, master, you go to sleep. I'm going to exercise. The parrot laughed and hurriedly ran out of the room. The next day, Yi Qinghan and the others had not even woken up when chaos broke out outside. The Hua clan had sealed the city, and a large number of Fire Qilin army had been mobilized. It was clear how angry the Hua clan was. Go and investigate. So many treasures were lost in the spirit fruit orchard, and you can't find any clues. You might as well die. The Hua clan elder was furious. He pointed at the guards and scolded them. Grand Elder, we found a dozen dragon fruit cores. They are very fresh. They were eaten last night. A Fire Qilin army member quickly handed over a dragon fruit core that had been eaten clean. The Hua clan's Grand Elder, Hua Feng, had a head of white hair. He was so angry that he was trembling. Looking at the clean core, his eyes were filled with cold flames. Damn it, they ate it clean. Hua Feng clenched his fists and said coldly, continue to investigate. See if there are any other clues. For example, footprints. Even if there's an extra strand of hair, find it. The Hua Fei sisters brought Yi Qinghan to Adventure Street. That was where adventurers bought and sold spirit herbs and spirit fruits. Why are there so many Fire Qilin army in the city? Hua asked curiously. The Fire Qilin army was the Hua clan's strongest weapon. There were only 3,000 people in this army, but the lowest cultivation level was at the 9th body refinement stage. They had a strength of over 10,000 pounds. More than half of them were in the blood ignition realm. The middle stage of the blood ignition realm was the captain, while the peak of the blood ignition realm was the superintendent. 1 captain, 10 superintendents, and 30 big teams. Each big team had 300 people, and each big team was divided into 10 small teams. Each small team was led by a blood ignition realm cultivator. This kind of army was the reason why the Hua clan could occupy a big city. A small team walked towards them. They were neat and orderly, patrolling back and forth. Wherever they went, no one dared to stop them. The parrot knew why the Hua clan was so popular. It felt a little guilty, so it chose to remain silent at the beginning of the day. It laid on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, its big eyes constantly looking around. On Adventure Street, the young masters and young ladies of the rich families waved their feathered fans and swaggered around, trying to find suitable herbs for cultivation. Yi Qinghan spread out a blanket and took out a large amount of second-grade spirit herbs. His figure was tall and straight, and his aura was extraordinary. With the heavy berserk saber on his back, he stood out from the crowd, attracting the attention of everyone. Come to buy spirit herbs and spirit fruits. Barter. You can pay with gold or spirit crystals. Hua took the initiative to call out. True spirit herb, jade bamboo, fire spirit herb, purple spirit fruit, almost everything was available, and there were even a few third-grade spirit herbs that were very valuable. The handsome man set up a stall, and the beautiful woman called out. Instantly, it attracted the attention of many young masters and young ladies of the rich families. They all gathered around, and some of the peddlers' eyes lit up, as if they had found a treasure. Yi Qinghan looked at the spirit herbs on the stall, but his divine sense was surrounding the crowd. He knew that most of the people were not here to buy, but to watch the show. A handsome young man pushed the crowd aside and looked at Yi Qinghan arrogantly and coldly asked, "So it's the beautiful sisters of Flaming Cloud City? So brazenly selling spirit herbs with a strange man, aren't you afraid of offending your admirers in the city? This is our freedom. Fourth brother Hua, you don't have to worry. Do you want to buy spirit herbs and spirit fruits? I can give you a 10% discount." Hua Fei asked indifferently. This fourth brother Hua was not to be trifled with. He was the direct disciple of the Hua clan, Hua Si, an expert of the younger generation. He was at the middle stage of the blood ignition realm and was a famous existence in Flaming Cloud City. I don't care about such low-grade spirit herbs. These spirit herbs are not old enough. Hua Si looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and deliberately provoked him. Yi Qinghan felt the hostility and slightly raised his eyes. His gaze was like a sharp arrow that shot into Hua Si's eyes. Hua Si's heart tightened, and he felt as if he was about to stop breathing. Especially his eyes, it was as if he had been attacked. He cried out in pain and quickly retreated. "You dare to sneak attack me?" Hua Si took a few steps back and coldly shouted with narrowed eyes. Hua Fei's expression turned ugly. She did not want to offend this direct disciple, so she could only bow and say, "Fourth brother Hua, these things are all mine. Why do you have to make things difficult for us, the Hua clan's external relatives?" "He is not an external relative of the Hua clan. Little sister Fei, I am not deliberately making things difficult for you. As a direct disciple of the Hua clan, I naturally have to consider the safety of Flaming Cloud City. I am even more worried that you will be deceived by him." Hua Si sneered. Yi Qinghan pulled Hua Fei over. Against someone like Hua Si who didn't know what was good for him, he could only use a slap to intimidate him. He did not want to waste any more words. This is Adventure Street, a street for adventurers and businessmen. If you want to buy, I will sell. If you want to cause trouble, you have picked the wrong person. Yi Qinghan's eyes shot out a cold flame. His aura burst forth and pressed down on Hua Si. Outsiders could not sense Yi Qinghan's aura, but Hua Si felt as though he had jumped into an ice cave. His entire body was cold and he did not dare look straight at him. His spine was drenched in cold sweat. What an arrogant person. He actually dares to offend a direct disciple of the Hua clan. Isn't he afraid of trouble? He is probably an outsider who doesn't know what's good for him. In Flaming Cloud City, there are not many people who can offend the Hua clan and walk out of Flaming Cloud City alive. A few youths in the surroundings were whispering. When Hua Si heard the crowd helping him, he wanted to erupt with his aura to compete with Yi Qinghan. However, Yi Qinghan's aura increased once again. Just his aura alone sent him flying 5 to 6 meters away. Chapter 52. When Hua Si heard that everyone was helping him, he was just about to unleash his aura to compete with Yi Qinghan. However, Yi Qinghan's aura exploded again, and just his aura alone sent him flying 5 or 6 meters away. Humph, just you wait. Hua Si staggered and almost fell. His expression changed. He knew that Yi Qinghan was not to be trifled with. He secretly said that and retreated. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. They didn't expect Hua Si to leave without leaving any harsh words. It was really an unprecedented first. "Handsome, how much is the fire spirit grass?" A luxuriously dressed woman crossed her arms and stood with a few servants beside her. It seemed like her identity was not simple. "The market price is 5 taels of gold per stalk. There are 200 stalks here. If you want them all, it will be 900 taels of gold." Yi Qinghan said indifferently. "I'll buy them all." "Handsome, what's your name? Can we get to know each other?" the beautiful woman asked generously. Hua Fei's face was filled with hostility. She glared at the woman as if someone was eyeing her treasure. She said with dissatisfaction, "Miss Ling, what are you trying to do? Do I need you to care what I do? Huafei, others like you, but it doesn't mean that I like you. Why don't you open your eyes and look at yourself? Other than your chest being bigger, what else is better than me?" Miss Ling was naturally the little princess of the Flaming Cloud City's Ling family, Ling Piaomiao. Not only was she a famous beauty in the city, but she was also in existence with great wealth. If it wasn't for her strange temper, people would have come to the Ling family to propose marriage. Ling Piaomiao and Huafei glared at each other without any intention of backing down. "My name is Yi Qinghan. Thank you, please pay the bill." Customers were gods. Yi Qinghan would not give up a large order just for his name. He packed up all the fire spirit grass and handed it to Ling Piaomiao. "Yi Qinghan, good name. My name is Ling Piaomiao. You can call me Piaomiao. Here is 1,000 taels of gold. Keep the change. This lady has money. If you agree to have lunch with me alone, I'll take all the herbs in your hands." Ling Piaomiao looked at Huafei provocatively with a mocking smile. "I am from the alchemy pavilion. How many spirit grass do you have? We'll take them all. The price is negotiable." Right at this moment, another rich and overbearing force came. His voice was low and deep, attracting everyone's attention. When Yi Qinghan heard this, he immediately took out all the spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits from his interspatial ring. These things were useless to him, including the stalactite essence. It would be a good idea to sell them and exchange them for some spirit crystals. When the people from the medicine refinement pavilion saw the milky stone essence, their eyes lit up. This milky stone essence was the best material for refining pills. Normally, if a single drop of milky stone essence was added into a pill, it would become a high-grade pill. Ah, stone milk essence. So many, I want them. Ling Piaomiao said domineeringly. Our medicine concocting pavilion wants all of them. Fellow Taoist, state your price. The middle-aged alchemist from the medicine refinery pavilion said coldly. Do you think I'll take them all just because you say so? This lady took a fancy to him first. Even if you want to bully someone, you should know who they are. Ling Piaomiao shouted coldly. The two of them were anxious, and neither of them was willing to give up. The parrot's eyes flickered. It suddenly stood up and said, "Idiot, the highest bidder will get it. The starting price is 1,000 low-grade spirit crystals. 1,000 low-grade spirit crystals could get more than 500 pounds of milky stone essence and thousands of spiritual herbs. The price was not cheap, but it was not expensive either. It was just the market price." When the parrot suddenly spoke, everyone was shocked. Ling Piaomiao was overjoyed. She pointed at the parrot and said to Yi Qinghan, "I'll buy them all for 1,000 low-grade spirit crystals, including this parrot." Damn! Are you stupid? This divine bird is not for sale. Even if you sold your whole family, you still wouldn't be able to afford me. The parrot said disdainfully. The parrot was so arrogant and strange that Ling Piaomiao liked it more and more. Women were always weird and liked strange things like this. "Young Master Yi, can you give me a straightforward answer?" Ling Piaomiao's interest in the parrot suddenly exceeded her interest in Yi Qinghan. "It's not for sale. I'm only selling these things now. 1,000 low-grade spirit crystals. Whoever can afford it can take it," Yi Qinghan said in a serious tone. "My medicine refinery pavilion will buy it. Young Master Yi, right? Here are 1,000 low-grade spirit crystals. We'll take all of these herbs." The alchemist said without hesitation. The alchemist was different from Ling Piaomiao. He bought spiritual herbs for alchemy, not Ling Piaomiao, who bought them for flirting. 1,000 low-grade spirit crystals was just a drop in the ocean for a money-burning organization like the medicine refinery pavilion. "Huang Yaoshi, you want to steal from me? I'll pay 1,050 low-grade spirit crystals. Ling Piaomiao said angrily. You're really a spoiled brat. Although the Ling family is rich, it's not enough to make my medicine refinery pavilion back down. I'll pay 1,100 low-grade spirit crystals. Huang Yaoshi said coldly. You dare to scold me. Ling Piaomiao's face darkened, revealing her bad temper. No wonder the younger generation stayed away from her. I'm too lazy to talk to you. If you have the ability, ask your father to come find me. Huang Yaoshi was also an eccentric old man. He was too lazy to talk to this kind of girl. He turned to Yi Qinghan and said, Fellow Taoist, can we sell it now? Yes. Yi Qinghan did not hesitate. He handed over his yin and yang ring and paid 1,100 low-grade spirit crystals. Then, he handed over all the spiritual herbs and stalactite essence. Wait. Put down the spiritual herbs and spiritual herbs. I suspect that these are stolen goods. Take them all and we'll talk about them after the investigation. A cold voice sounded. Then, more than 10 small teams of Fire Qilin army rushed into the adventure street. A superintendent at the peak of the blood ignition realm appeared. He was extremely powerful and led a group of people to surround Yi Qinghan. The parrot trembled and lay on Yi Qinghan's body, pretending to be dead. The real stolen goods were in its yin and yang ring. Yi Qinghan still did not know that the parrot had stolen so many spiritual fruits and spiritual herbs from the Hua clan. When he saw these people coming for him, he thought that the idiot Hua Si was deliberately looking for trouble. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he reached for his heavy berserk saber. Stolen goods. Whose stolen goods are these? You better think carefully before you speak. Who lost more than 500 gene of stalactite essence? Yi Qinghan coldly questioned. It's the superintendent of the Chaotic Fire Pavilion. He's a famous expert in our Flaming Cloud City. He's cold-blooded and tyrannical. Don't provoke him. Hua Fei saw that it was the Chaotic Fire Pavilion and her heart sank. She knew that today's matter would not be easy. She quickly reminded Yi Qinghan not to be rash. Humph! Yi Qinghan snorted and took a step forward. He looked straight at the Chaotic Fire Pavilion and waited for an answer. 500 gene of stalactite essence. The Chaotic Fire Pavilion's eyes lit up. He did not hide his greed and sneered, Brat, you dare to steal from my Hua clan. Men, take him away. Wait. Huang Yaoshi frowned. He put all the herbs and stalactite essence into his yin-yang ring and said, I know very well whether these are stolen goods or not. Moreover, I paid for them. Even if they are stolen goods, you took his money. It has nothing to do with me. However, these things are mine. Wait a moment. Put them down first. Chaotic Fire Pavilion, tell me clearly today. Does this stalactite essence belong to your Hua clan? Yi Qinghan coldly asked. Yes. My Hua family lost a lot of things today. All of them are rare medicinal herbs. I suspect that you got them from the Hua family's forbidden area. Chaotic Flame Pavilion replied without hesitation. Clearly, he wanted to rob the 1,100 low-grade spirit crystals. Superintendent Hua, I can prove that these do not belong to the Hua clan. Moreover, Mr. Coiling Tiger from the Coiling Tiger Squad can also prove that you must have misunderstood. Hua Fei did not care about offending the big shots of the Hua clan. You can prove it? Who do you think you are? Right now, I suspect that you are accomplices. Arrest them all. Chaotic Fire Pavilion shouted. Behind him, more than 100 Fire Qilin army soldiers rushed over and surrounded Yi Qinghan's group. Unrelated people, leave immediately. Otherwise, you will be punished as accomplices. The army clamored. More and more soldiers poured into Adventurers Street. The adventurers were angry, but they did not dare say anything. Even the Adventurers Guild did not want to say anything. Ling Piaomiao and the others quickly left and ran to the periphery. When they saw Hua Fei, her sister, and Yi Qinghan's group surrounded, some people gloated while others shook their heads in pity. The parrot squinted at Chaotic Fire Pavilion and said inwardly, "This bastard is courting death. Tonight, I'll burn down your lousy courtyard." Yi Qinghan unsheathed his heavy berserk saber. His eyes were like torches as he stared at Chaotic Fire Pavilion and said coldly, "You better have your superintendent talk to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for starting a massacre." Ha ha, what did I hear? A Blood Ignition Realm rookie actually dares to talk about starting a massacre in my Flaming Cloud City's Fire Qilin army? Did I hear wrongly? Chaotic Fire Pavilion mocked loudly. Ha ha ha, this is hilarious. Superintendent, there's no need to talk nonsense with him. Let us go. The Fire Qilin army laughed. Yi Qinghan and the parrot squinted their eyes into a line. The coldness in their eyes was getting thicker and thicker. Their hatred for the Hua clan was rising. "Master, what should we do?" The parrot felt that it was in the wrong and did not dare to say anything. It secretly transmitted a message to Yi Qinghan. "Those who dare to have designs on me will either die or wait for death. However, please wait. I don't want to cause trouble for Hua Fei, and her sister." Yi Qinghan replied. "What if they make the first move?" The parrot asked. "Of course, I'll kill them." Yi Qinghan's aura burst out. His clothes and black hair fluttered without any wind. What a powerful aura. Did I offend the wrong person? He doesn't look old. Could he be a disciple from a wealthy clan? Chaotic Fire Pavilion was secretly shocked. Yi Qinghan's aura was definitely stronger than his. "Who are you? Where are you from? Don't cause any misunderstandings between us." Chaotic Fire Pavilion did not want to offend the wealthy clans and took the initiative to ask. "Yi Qinghan, from the Azure Sun Kingdom. I just arrived at Flaming Cloud City yesterday. The things your Hua clan lost have nothing to do with me. If you think I'm easy to bully, then feel free to come." Yi Qinghan was neither servile nor overbearing. He did not want to offend or retreat. Once he heard that Yi Qinghan came from a remote village, he no longer cared. Chaotic Fire Pavilion waved his hand and shouted to the crowd, "Take him down. Our Hua clan lost something the moment he arrived. Who else could it be but him?" Chapter 53. Hundreds of Fire Qilin army soldiers followed Chaotic Fire Pavilion's orders and moved neatly towards Yi Qinghan. They advanced and retreated in an orderly manner, cooperating with each other and intimidating everyone. Hua Fei and Huiya's faces turned pale. They knew how powerful the Fire Qilin army was. A small team could quickly suppress an early stage or even middle stage Blood Ignition Realm martial artist. Now, there were at least 2 large teams of Fire Qilin army soldiers. Even a peak stage Blood Ignition Realm martial artist couldn't escape. "Young Master Yi, why don't we give him the spirit crystals? Let's get through this first." Hua Fei might be afraid, but she was very calm. She whispered to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's killing intent gushed out. His vital essence poured out and gathered on the heavy frenzy saber, emitting a dazzling saber light. Boom! Gotcha! He attacked crazily. The 7-feet-long saber slashed out horizontally. His vital essence was unstoppable. Before the Fire Qilin army's momentum reached its peak, Yi Qinghan took the initiative to attack. The 5th-grade saber pierced through the Fire Qilin army's defense. Long spears were broken on the ground. The Fire Qilin armor couldn't block the sharp attack. Ah! Pooh! In the blink of an eye, the 3 teams of people were cut in half at the waist and died on the spot. There were also some people who were swept away by the Jin Yuan. The sharp Shin Qi poured into their bodies and shattered their vitality. From the outside, it looked like they only had superficial wounds, but they were already dead. Courting death. Yi Qinghan shouted angrily. He danced crazily and pounced into the chaotic Fire Qilin army. After a series of slashes, no one was a match for him. The Fire Qilin army was forced to retreat, screaming miserably. Blood flowed like a river on Adventure Street. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chaotic Fire Pavilion's body was cold. The shock in his eyes was indescribable as he kept retreating. You dare to kill my Fire Qilin army. Chaotic Fire Pavilion didn't know what was good for him. He still wanted to use his family's power to intimidate Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan used the sharpest second-grade basic saber art to reply to Chaotic Fire Pavilion. He killed a few people with one saber. The second-grade spiritual weapon was like tofu, weak in front of Yi Qinghan. Shua shua, the saber radiance shot out in all directions, slicing through iron like it was mud. With one man attacking, 100 enemies would not be able to break through. Not only did he force back hundreds of Fire Qilin army soldiers, but he also killed more than 70 of them in the blink of an eye. More than 100 of them were severely injured and lying on the ground. Hua Fei and Hui's eyes were filled with fear. In their eyes, the Hua family was an undefeatable existence. Just the Fire Qilin army alone had more than 3,000 people. In addition to the Hua family's direct disciples and outer disciples, there were close to 10,000 people. It was too easy for them to kill someone below the Grotto Heaven realm. Hua Fei, how dare you team up with outsiders to kill members of my Hua family? The Chaotic Fire Pavilion didn't dare to face Yi Qinghan. Instead, he took a detour and pounced toward Hua Fei. The ominous glint in his eyes was extremely terrifying. Parting blade. Yi Qinghan swung his heavy frenzy saber, and the long saber spun and killed tens of people. Once again, the saber returned to his hand, and the Fire Qilin army didn't dare to attack again. They immediately retreated. At this time, Hua Wanchuan had already arrived in front of Hua Fei. How could these two little girls be a match for someone at the peak of the blood ignition realm? They were suppressed by the powerful raging flame palm to the point where they couldn't even breathe. They could only wait for death. You're courting death. Yi Qinghan was enraged. He slashed his saber on the stone floor and rushed forward. He waved his hand and shouted in a deep voice, 8th Division Heavenly Dragon Palm. Palm images danced in the sky. Each palm was capable of seizing a person's soul. They drew on the momentum and directly attacked Chaotic Fire Pavilion's back. Chaotic Fire Pavilion only felt a bone-piercing pain from his back. He hurriedly gave up on killing Hua Fei and jumped to the side to escape. Yi Qinghan struck out 8 times in a row. His aura suddenly changed. A transcendent aura shot out, and a huge dragon image roared out from his body. Roar! Roar! The huge dragon was like a true dragon, sweeping across the land. It swam through the Adventurers Street and opened its bloody mouth to bite Chaotic Fire Pavilion. Its speed was frightening, causing people to feel despair. Chaotic Fire Pavilion didn't dare to look back. He only wanted to escape from this palm attack as soon as possible. However, the huge dragon seemed to have eyes. No matter how he changed direction, it would quickly capture him. Hong! In an instant, the huge dragon's body surrounded Chaotic Fire Pavilion. Its mouth was filled with fangs that could shatter mountains. It swooped down from the sky and ruthlessly bit Chaotic Fire Pavilion. Ah, no! Chaotic Fire Pavilion cried out miserably. His blood dyed the ground red. He constantly brandished his spear, wanting to shatter the huge dragon image. However, compared to Yi Qinghan's strength, the difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. His body was swept up by the huge dragon and rushed into the sky. It was too terrifying. Huang Yaoshi's face was deathly pale. Ling Piaomiao was so frightened that she couldn't speak. She was so intimidated by the barbaric and manic Yi Qinghan that she couldn't even move her legs. Hoo, everyone's breathing quickened. They felt as if there was a breath stuck in their chests that couldn't be released. What palm technique is this? It can actually strike out with the heavenly dragon's descent. Yi Qinghan was too lazy to look at everyone's expressions. The icy flames in his eyes were thick. Since he had already taken action today, he had to intimidate all the rascals in Flaming Cloud City. Hong! Yi Qinghan stabbed his heavy wild saber into the ground. His tall and straight body surged with energy. His robes fluttered in the wind. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped in a strange position. His vital essence connected to the huge dragon image. His palm slammed towards the fleeing Fire Qilin army. Hong! The huge dragon tore Chaotic Fire Pavilion apart. It swooped down from the sky and attacked the Fire Qilin army. Ah! Quick, run! Oh my God! Who is this person? Quick, inform the elders in the tribe. Inform the superintendent. The Fire Qilin army was famous for its strict military discipline. However, at this moment, there was no such thing as military discipline. Escaping was the most important thing. However, how could their speed compare to Yi Qinghan's True Yuan giant dragon? The True Yuan giant dragon swept through everything in its path, sweeping up all the debris on the ground. It was so powerful that even the corpses were swept into the distance. Hua! Hong! The Vital Essence huge dragon was extremely violent. It exploded in the middle of the Fire Qilin army. Blood dyed the sky and the earth. The surrounding houses collapsed. Broken bodies fell down. The explosion shook the entire Adventure Street. Chaotic Fire Pavilion was bathed in a river of blood. He struggled on the ground. The piercing pain in his soul and body woke him up completely. He looked at Yi Qinghan in despair. His eyes were full of viciousness. You are dead. No matter who you are, you will die a horrible death for killing so many of our Hua family. Chaotic Fire Pavilion did not look for himself. Instead, he pushed all the blame to Yi Qinghan. It seemed like this Chaotic Fire Pavilion deserved to die. Yi Qinghan's eyes glowed. Without any pity, he took a step forward and stepped on Chaotic Fire Pavilion's chest. Did my stone milk essence belong to your Hua family? Did I steal your Hua family's spiritual herbs? Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. It was soul-stirring. His killing intent was extremely dense. Without a doubt, if Chaotic Fire Pavilion dared to frame him again, he would not hesitate to crush Chaotic Fire Pavilion's body. It's not from the Hua family. It's a misunderstanding. Mr. Yi, please don't be rash. Chaotic Fire Pavilion hurriedly begged for mercy. Is that so? If the people outside can't hear, then I will bear the bad name of a thief. Yi Qinghan slowly squatted down and looked down at the struggling Chaotic Fire Pavilion. The killing intent in his eyes was self-evident. Mr. Yi is definitely not the person who stole the Hua family's spiritual herbs. This old man's eyes were blind. I beg for Mr. Ye's forgiveness. I am willing to compensate for the loss of Mr. Ye's reputation. Chaotic Fire Pavilion did not care about his reputation as he begged for mercy. Everyone looked at each other. They had never seen a Fire Qilin army superintendent beg for mercy. The Hua family had always been powerful in Flaming Cloud City. Even a 4th-grade sex disciple would have to lower his head. As the saying went, a strong dragon could not suppress a local snake. However, Yi Qinghan was too ferocious. If a local snake dared to raise its head, he would smash its head down. If it dared to open its mouth, he would pull out its poisonous fangs. I will only give you one chance. I don't care how you explain today's matter to the Hua family. However, if they are like you, I will not give them a second chance. Scram! Yi Qinghan coldly said. Yes. I will scram now. Chaotic Fire Pavilion nodded continuously. He was afraid of angering Yi Qinghan. When he felt Yi Qinghan lifting his foot, he quickly got up and fled. Yi Qinghan swept his gaze across the crowd. His warning was very strong. Even Huang Yaoshi and Ling Piaomiao, who had strange personalities, felt their hair stand on end. They were not willing to offend him. Let's go. Yi Qinghan said to Hua Fei. Hua Fei was ready to pull out the heavy berserk saber and give it to Yi Qinghan. However, she found that she had to use all her strength to pull it out. The heavy berserk saber was not something that just anyone could use. Everyone watched as Hua Fei used all her strength to pull it out. Her chest became even bigger, making her look very funny. However, no one dared to laugh. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled. He reached out and took the heavy berserk saber. Then, he left Adventure Street with the two beautiful sisters. Take me to buy some pills. I want pills that are 3rd grade and above. Yi Qinghan indifferently said. The Spirit Treasure Pavilion was a gathering place for pills. Over there, as long as you had the money, there was no pill that you could not buy. Of course, this was only limited to 5th grade and below. This was because there was no 5th grade alchemist on Owlfall Planet. The three of them walked. The parrot was unusually silent. It was so strange that it made Yi Qinghan suspicious. Little guy, did you steal the Hua family's spirit fruit garden? Yi Qinghan asked. No. The parrot replied seriously. Really? Yi Qinghan sneered at the parrot, an ominous glint in his eyes. Ahem, I took a little. However, it seems that I did not lose anything. Otherwise, I would have been wronged by them. I would have been angry for master. The parrot laughed. Yi Qinghan was speechless. This bastard really did not want to make things difficult for him. Master, can you buy me a bigger yin-yang ring? I can't fit it. The parrot said helplessly. Didn't you only take a little? Yi Qinghan sneered. Yes, the space inside the ring is too small. It's full. The parrot said, feeling wronged. Yi Qinghan, fortunately, the space inside the ring was small. Otherwise, the parrot would have taken the Hua family's spirit fruit garden. After arriving at the Spirit Treasure Pavilion, Hua Fei and Sun Fei looked at the dazzling array of treasures. Their eyes shined, especially the high-quality fire attribute spirit pills. These were necessary for them to cultivate the flame palm. Unfortunately, a single 3rd grade fire attribute spirit pill cost over 1,000 gold taels. They could not afford it. Hua Fei and Sun Fei both had fire attribute constitutions. The fire element in their bodies was very rich. They were extremely suitable for cultivating fire attribute cultivation methods. However, their family's basic palm technique, the flame palm, was too low grade. It was only a 1st grade. Yi Qinghan could see the light in their eyes. He felt that there was nothing wrong with helping them. At the very least, when he was in trouble, they did not choose to abandon him. Instead, they were prepared to fight with the chaotic fire pavilion. The 3rd grade red flame palm is more suitable for them. Even someone like Sun Fei, who does not have a fire attribute constitution, can use it. The red flame palm should be able to flourish in their hands. Yi Qinghan thought about it. He felt that he owed them a favor and should give them a way out. Chapter 54. Yi Qinghan wantonly bought pills. He wanted to use up all the gold and gold notes he had. These things were useless at crucial times, and they were not as useful as pills. Hua Fei and her sister's eyes were wide open. They looked at Yi Qinghan's rich and willful appearance as he threw out hundreds of thousands of gold without blinking. They were dazzled by his generosity. Give me 20 fire spirit pills. After Yi Qinghan bought what he needed, he set his eyes on the fire spirit pills. He had decided to nurture this pair of beautiful sisters. Wuxia swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said to herself, "My goodness, my sister and I have to think for a long time before buying one," but he bought 20 in one go. What a tycoon! Tall, rich, and handsome. High and mighty. Spending money like dirt. It was as if all the good points could be linked to Yi Qinghan. Hua Fei was also shocked speechless by Yi Qinghan. "All right. For a big customer like you, we will definitely give you a 10% discount." The waiter's eyes were sparkling. He treated Yi Qinghan as a god of wealth. "What if it's your Spirit Treasures Pavilion's honorary winemaker? How much discount can you give?" Yi Qinghan took out a golden token. On it was engraved the word "Glory." It was a soul-stirring sight. The waiter's face turned green with fright. He fell to his knees and kowtowed repeatedly, "I didn't know sir was coming. Please forgive me. Get up. Don't disturb the others." Yi Qinghan said in a very low-key manner. "Yes. Sir, you are very honorable. We will give you at least a 50% discount. However, I will have to inform our store manager." The waiter said respectfully. "Go. Tell him not to spread the news. I don't like crowds." Yi Qinghan said indifferently. The servant left. Hua Fei and Wuxia were completely dumbfounded. It turned out that Yi Qinghan was not only a tall, rich, and handsome man, but also a respected and honorable winemaker. A winemaker recognized by the Lingbao Pavilion. No matter what, he had to be a winemaker above the 4th rank. "Young master." Hua Fei muttered. She wanted to bow, but she didn't know how to do so. She was completely stupefied. "There's no need to be so polite. I'm not your Hua family's honorary winemaker." Yi Qinghan was very calm. He didn't see this identity as an honor at all. With this token, he could buy things in the Lingbao Hall at a discount, which was much more practical than the so-called honor. Not long after, an elegantly dressed middle-aged man quickly ran over. He looked at Yi Qinghan with a puzzled expression. He was somewhat doubtful about the authenticity of Glory's winemaker. "Sir, may I know your name? We haven't been notified by our superiors yet, so we didn't know that ancient Lulan had a glorious winemaker. Could you please show me the token?" Zhu Sheng was the person in charge of the Lingbao Hall's Flaming Cloud City in ancient Lulan. He had great authority, but he didn't dare to blaspheme the Glory's winemaker recognized by the Lingbao Hall. Even if he suspected that Yi Qinghan was a fake, he didn't dare to say anything too unpleasant. Yi Qinghan was indeed too young. Anyone else would be suspicious, so Zhu Sheng's attitude didn't displease Yi Qinghan. He casually took out the token and tossed it to him. "This one is Yi Qinghan from the Qingyang Kingdom. This token was given to me by Qinzheng," Yi Qinghan said calmly. "Qinzheng?" Zhu Sheng was stunned. He seemed to understand something. The Lingbao Hall was the Qin family's property. Only they had the right to issue honorary tokens. Each one was extremely precious. Zhu Sheng looked at the token carefully and found that it was indeed the most valuable treasure of the Lingbao Hall. Each token represented an elder. Even if they didn't have any real power, their status was very respected. "Greetings, Mr. Yi. This one is Zhu Sheng, the head deacon of the Lingbao Hall in Flaming Cloud City. You can call me Little Zhu." Zhu Sheng respectfully returned the token to Yi Qinghan and bowed. "Mr. Zhu, you don't have to be so polite. I just want to know how much discount I can get for the things I buy." Yi Qinghan put away the token and asked with a shrug. It seems like Qinzheng didn't tell you the use of the token." Zhu Sheng cupped his fists and explained, "The glory token represents an elder of the Lingbao Hall. Wherever you go, in times of emergency, you can transfer 10,000 low-grade spiritual crystals and below from the Lingbao Hall. You can pay it back within 3 months. If you buy things from the Lingbao Hall, you can get a 30% discount, 10,000 low-grade spiritual crystals. A 30% discount. These benefits really moved Yi Qinghan. It seemed like the Tier 4 pill recipe that he gave away was finally being repaid. Alright then. Give me another 50 Tier 3 Fire Spirit pills and 3 Tier 3 Universe rings. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and said in a serious tone. Alright, please wait a moment. I will immediately pack them up and send them to you. After Zhu Xing finished speaking, he got the servant to prepare them and led Yi Qinghan into the private room. Mr. Yi, if you have any urgent matters in Flaming Cloud City or if it is inconvenient for you to do them, just tell little Zhu. I will definitely do it for you. Zhu Xing respectfully expressed his goodwill. Yi Qinghan looked at the shrewd Zhu Xing and knew that he wouldn't be able to take advantage of him. However, there was no need to offend him. As a local overlord, his words might be more effective than the head of the Hua clan. Alright, I don't need anything for the time being. I will still be here for a while. If there is any trouble, I hope Mr. Zhu can help me. Yi Qinghan nodded and said. Not at all. Mr. Yi is young and talented. You will definitely have a great future in the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. If there is a chance, I hope you can promote me. Zhu Xing smiled and said. Mr. Zhu is too polite. If there is a chance to go to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion's headquarters in Qing Province, I will definitely recommend you. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, Mr. Zhu, Qinghan still has matters to attend to. I will take my leave now. May I know where Mr. Yi lives? If it is inconvenient, you can come to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion's Guest Welcoming Pavilion. This is the place to welcome guests. It has its own spirit gathering array. Normally, I am not qualified to stay here. When Zhu Xing saw Yi Qinghan leaving, he immediately expressed his goodwill again. There is no need. I will be staying at Hua Fei's house for the time being. Yi Qinghan handed over 200,000 gold and took the things he bought. Then, he left the city center with Hua Fei and Yiya. Along the way, Hua Fei and Huiya were very cautious. They didn't dare to act as casually as before. Before, they were thinking about how to make Yi Qinghan stay, but now, they were thinking about how to make Yi Qinghan take them away. Their status as a direct descendant of the Hua clan didn't seem so noble anymore. After returning home, Yi Qinghan sat in the living room and gave all the fire attribute spirit dawn to Hua Fei. Their eyes lit up and they were extremely excited. In their opinion, Yi Qinghan still had them in his heart. Otherwise, why would he spend so much money on them? Hua Fei, Huiya, you two are cultivating a low-grade flame palm. Its power is not strong. I will teach you a third-grade fire attribute martial skill called Scarlet Flame Palm. It is 10 times stronger than your Hua clan's Raging Flame Palm. However, this martial skill is very vicious. Not only will it harm the enemy, it will also harm the user. If you are not careful, you will be poisoned by the fire. Therefore, when you cultivate it, you must not be too hasty. Yi Qinghan warned them. Third-grade fire attribute martial skill. Scarlet Flame Palm. Hua Fei's body trembled. The Hua clan's strongest Raging Flame Palm was also a third-grade martial skill. However, it was only a lower-grade martial skill. Yet, it was able to intimidate a large city. From this, one could see the importance of martial skills. If she had the upper-grade Scarlet Flame Palm, her and her sister's achievements would definitely surpass the Hua clan's ancestors. The highest level of this martial technique is the peak of the Bitter Sea stage. If you are lucky enough, you may be able to enter the Step on Air stage of the Heavenly Passage stage. It is not a good martial technique, but it is very suitable for you. Yi Qinghan said calmly. Thank you, young Master Yi. We sisters are unable to repay you. Please accept us. We cannot help you fight against the enemy, but we can at least take care of your food and shelter. We will warm your bed in the winter. We will not complain. Hua Fei said respectfully as she knelt down. Huya also knelt down. She looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly, hoping to receive affirmation. However, Yi Qinghan shook his head without hesitation. He helped the two sisters up and passed on the Scarlet Flame Palm's training route, mantras, and his previous life's experiences to them. He said hoarsely, I am just a wild man. I do not need anyone to serve me. With this martial skill, you will be able to stand firm in ancient Lulan. I do not need to worry. Hua Fei did not expect Yi Qinghan to reject her so straightforwardly. Her face darkened and she said sadly, Sigh, a young talent like young Master Yi is not someone we can covet. We are not even worthy of warming your bed. Do not belittle yourself. In this world, everyone is equal. There are no lowly people, only lowly people. If you look down on yourself, why should I look up to you? What's more, I have my reasons for rejecting you. I am helping you because you have helped me. I recognize your character. A rank 3 fire attribute martial skill is nothing to me. You do not need to feel burdened. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Hua Fei listened to Yi Qinghan's words and was shocked. She was even more in awe of Yi Qinghan. Fei understands. Thank you for your advice. If you need us in the future, we will repay you with our lives. Idiot, do you want to find a fairy? You are destined to be alone for life. The parrot was dissatisfied with Yi Qinghan's performance. It said disdainfully and turned away to continue sleeping. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. Before he took revenge, he did not care about feelings. Because his enemies were all the Dao sovereigns and great revered martial artists in the entire Xiaolong region. You serve the young master. I will go and cook. Hua Fei left the room. Huya's face was red. She poured a cup of spiritual tea for Yi Qinghan and went behind Yi Qinghan. She stretched out her hand and gently pinched his shoulder. Her strength was just right, and Yi Qinghan's tiredness was swept away. Yi Qinghan did not refuse. Otherwise, the two sisters would be even more reserved. The parrot did not disturb the two of them. It flew out of the living room and landed on the treetop. It enjoyed the nourishment of the sun. Its fat body was stretched out lazily. After the three of them finished their lunch, they were preparing to cultivate. An uninvited guest came. It was an extremely arrogant supervisor from the Hua clan. You are Yi Qinghan. The great elder wants to see you. Come with me. The visitor ordered coldly. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. It seemed that the matter with the Hua clan was not over yet. The cold flame in his eyes became colder and colder. The temperature in the room dropped rapidly. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.